Chapter 51. Job advancement in the midst of battle. Sounds of laughter echoed across the river as the kids played tag in the water. They were not aware that 100 meters below them, countless dark-scaled crocodiles had started to raise their heads to look in their direction. A lone individual swam up. Its eyes locked on a young girl who was floating in the water. Its tail swayed back and forth behind it, boosting its speed. Its huge mouth gaped open and its razor-sharp teeth glistened in the murky depths. 50 meters. 40. 20. 10. Its cold-blooded eyes showed no mercy as it went in for the kill. It was about to bite the unsuspecting child when a 5-meter-long ice lance pierced through the water and penetrated its wide-open mouth. The dark-scaled crocodile let out a cry as its body squirmed under the surface of the river. "Everyone get out of the river. There are monsters hiding in the depths," William shouted. "Hurry." If not for the fact that the surface of the river beside the girl had been stained with blood, no one would have believed him. The young girl screamed in fear as she swam towards the land. Several of the children also backed away in fright as they watched the river's water start to churn. Suddenly, a giant gaping mouth broke the river's surface. It was a crocodile that was over 10 meters long. And its eyes locked on the children with predatory lust. Centennial dark-scaled crocodile. One of the adults gasped in shock. "Quickly. Evacuate the river now." The centennial beast opened its mouth wide and shot out a concentrated cannonball of water. The hairs on the back of William's neck stood on end as he felt the feeling of impending death fall upon him. Ice wall. William created 5 ice walls in front of him, creating 5 layers of protection. He wanted to cast more, but there was not enough time to do it. The water ball instantly broke the first 2 ice walls, and pushed through the third with ease. The boy only had enough time to brace himself for the impact as all 5 layers broke down in front of him. Ella faced the water ball with its horns and neutralized it upon impact. Even so, the blast still sent her and William flying away for a few meters. If the 5 ice walls hadn't reduced the power of that water ball, Ella might have already been blasted into pieces. A trail of blood streamed down the corner of William's lips as he slowly stood up from the ground. Ella positioned herself in front of William in order to protect him from other surprise attacks. It was at that moment when hundreds of heads bobbed up the river's surface. The young boy and the goat watched in horror when they saw that there were 10 centennial dark-scaled crocodiles in the horde of crocodiles. Theo, who rushed to check on William's condition, looked at the monsters in fright. "Fortunately, there is no millennial beast among them," Theo stuttered. "If there were, we would really be in big trouble." William's body stiffened when he heard Theo's comment. He wanted to slap his good friend and shout, "Don't raise death flags, you damn fool." There were 2 types of people that William hated the most when facing a battle of life and death. They were crow-mouthed people, those who raised death flags, and pig teammates. Right now, William was looking at one of those people. Before William could even smack his friend's head for raising a death flag, another presence made itself known. A crocodile with a golden head that was at least 5 meters in length poked out of the water. Its blood-red eyes glanced in William's direction and the boy felt his legs weaken. "By the goddess! Millennial beast golden-scaled crocodile!" Barbados uttered in disbelief. He had heard the warning bells from the watch tower and knew that an emergency situation had taken place. James, Mordred, and some of the fighters in Lant had left the town in order to do a reconnaissance mission. Right now, there were only a few masters left in Lant and he was one of them. Damn it. Barbados ran towards the river as he held the hammer in his hand. He needed to buy time for the other defenders to arrive and ensure that none of the kids would die in this skirmish. "Theo, run!" William grabbed Theo's robe and dragged him away. "Take the kids back to the town." "What about you?" Theo asked. "Are you going to fight?" "There's no chance of winning. I'll only help to hold them off." William glanced at the crocodiles who were now making their way towards the land. "Enough talk. Go." William mounted Ella's back as the 2 of them charged towards the front lines. "System, I need your help. What can I do for you today?" Closing square bracket. "For example, I advanced my Ice Mage to Ice Wizard. Is it still possible for me to open the other advanced job classes like the Elemental Lord, Battle Mage, Magic Swordsman, Arcane Ranger, and Cryo Lancer?" "Yes. You can change job classes as often as you like as long as you meet the necessary requirements." Closing square bracket. "Good," William said with a serious expression. "I want to advance to Ice Wizard. Can you make it happen?" "Certainly. Should I also allocate the experience points to the Ice Wizard job class instead of the Shepherd job class?" Closing square bracket. "Please do." "Understood." Closing square bracket. Dash. Ding. Closing square bracket. You had successfully ascended to Ice Wizard. A wizard who had dedicated his life to learn the secrets of ice magic. Ice magic effectiveness increased by 30%. Host has learned skill. Glacial Wave. Glacial Wave. 10 mana points. Causes an explosion of ice around the user, pushing enemies around away and freezing them for a short period of time. Dash. William breathed heavily as he tried to calm his senses. Advancing to the next job wasn't part of his plan, but the situation called for it. Among all the job classes in his arsenal, only his Shepherd and Ice Mage job classes had sufficient levels to make a difference. A centennial dark-scaled crocodile fired a concentrated water ball in William's direction. The boy raised his hand and created 6 layers of ice wall to block the attack. Just like last time, all 6 ice walls shattered. However, the attack was completely mitigated this time around. When William had changed his job class to Ice Wizard, his ice magic received a boost in its effectiveness. Blue mist shrouded Ella and William as he cast ice armor on both of them. He also bestowed ice armors to Barbados and the 10 other adults who were keeping the crocodiles at bay. This is hopeless, Barbados grimaced as he sent a crocodile flying with his hammer. These bastards have high resistance to physical attacks. We need mages. Ice Spike. Glacial Lance. Cone of Cold. William's attack passed through the battlefield, freezing the crocodiles in its path. Although it was effective, it was only a drop in the bucket. The hundreds of crocodiles advanced without a care in the world. As for the leaders of the horde, the centennial and millennial beasts were very intelligent creatures. Seeing that there was only one mage in the battlefield, they decided to focus all their attention on William, while the low-tiered dark-scaled crocodiles attacked Barbados and the others. Chapter 52. A Chance to Turn the Tables, Part 1. Ella didn't stop running and dodging. She didn't have the leisure to take it easy because the crocodiles were hell-bent on taking William out first. Even the millennial beast had shot high-powered water beams in their direction. Walls of ice surrounded the riverside as William did his best to capture their attention. Naturally, he didn't just defend. He also attacked as well. Gained express points. 600. Gained express points. 600. Gained express points. 600. Gained express points. 600. Dash. William was lucky that the crocodiles were still soaked with water. The ice magic froze them all and the adults shattered them to pieces. Although they were resistant to physical damage, it was very different when they were frozen. With a swing of his hammer, Barbados shattered all of these frozen crocodiles to pieces. Even though their numbers are less than 1,000, they are still a pain to kill, William thought as Ella narrowly avoided another high-speed water ball. My mana is almost exhausted. I alone can't turn the tide of battle. Most of his mana were used to cast Ice Wall in order to mitigate the tens of concentrated attacks that Ella couldn't evade. He already stopped casting offensive spells and focused on defending. His mana regeneration couldn't keep up with the high-intensity battle and he had almost been wrung dry. The millennial beast, golden-scaled crocodile, had already stepped on land. It raised its snout to roar and a crippling fear made William and Ella shudder. Host has been affected by Dragon's Fear. Host movement speed and reflexes had been decreased by 50%. FCK. William cursed. When did a crocodile become a dragon? What William didn't know was that dark-scaled crocodiles were descendants of lower dragons. Although the dragon blood inside their body was very thin, those who reached the ranks of a millennial beast would be able to awaken the ancient blood that was dormant inside their bodies. A golden-scaled crocodile at the millennial beast stage could evolve into a flood dragon. Ella struggled as she barely dodged a water ball that passed their side by mere inches. Mama Ella, let's retreat, William ordered. We can't hold on any longer. Staying here would only bring us death. Ella agreed with William so she immediately ran towards the town of Lant. They had already done their best. The adults were also slowly retreating. Barbados was blasted off the ground when he blocked the attack of the golden-scaled crocodile that was aimed at William's back. Mr. Barbados. William shouted as he steered Ella to assist the fallen blacksmith. I'm fine. Barbados roared. Don't come near me or both of us will become sitting ducks. William gritted his teeth as Ella stopped in her tracks. They could only watch as Barbados gingerly stood up from the ground while holding the hammer with shaking hands. Don't worry, Barbados said with a serious expression. The only time I'll die in this situation is when that golden-scaled crocodile decides to fight me at close range. Its weak long-range attack is not enough to make me kick the bucket. Mr. Barbados, is there any hope to win? William asked. If this goes on, Lant will be overrun. Barbados didn't answer him right away. The number of mages inside Lant could be counted with 2 hands. Half of those mages were currently with James, while the other half were probably on their way. If Celine were here, there might be a way, Barbados answered. However, it seems that she is not aware that we are currently under attack. Master. William was genuinely shocked by Barbados' revelation. Master is currently doing an experiment right now. This might be why she is not aware of our current dilemma. Barbados looked at William with understanding. So that's the reason why Celine isn't here yet. We may still have a chance to turn the tables. The blacksmith of Lant took out a silver spear from his storage ring and stabbed it in the ground. Iron Fortress. Barbados shouted. Immediately, a 10-meter tall wall filled with sharp spikes extended in front of him. It surrounded the west gate of Lant and became a protective barrier. This barrier will not hold on for long, Barbados explained. William, please, drag Celine from her laboratory. Tell her it's an emergency that concerns the life and death of Lant. Please, hurry. William nodded his head and urged his mama Ella to run as fast as she could. Their destination was the house of the dark sorceress on the outskirts of Lant. It took William 5 minutes to arrive at the house. He immediately dismounted and knocked on the door repeatedly to announce his arrival. Master. Master. It's William. William shouted. It's an emergency. We need your help. Master. Please. Help us. What's with all the shouting? An irritated voice replied. I'm almost done with my experiment. Come back after an hour. Master. An hour from now, Lant will already be in ruins. William screamed as he continued to knock on the door. We need your help now. A horde of dark-scaled crocodiles are attacking Lant. It is led by a golden-scaled crocodile that can use dragon's fear. No reply came, but William didn't stop knocking on the door. He kept on hawking and yelling, while pounding the door with his fists. The door abruptly opened and a disgruntled Celine appeared in front of William. Her hair was in disarray, and dark stains could be seen in her dress. Clearly, she wasn't joking when she said that she was still doing her experiment. If I find out that you're lying, I'm going to castrate you, Tilda, Celine said with a smile, but her eyes were screaming murder. William nodded his head like a hen pecking rice. If I'm joking, Master can make me her slave for a year. I won't resist even if you use me in your experiments. That is the least you can do for interrupting my experiment, Celine snorted. So, what's the current situation? Master, it's. Before William could even start his explanation, a strong explosion reached their ears. It was followed by a strong shockwave that pushed William towards the wall of Celine's house. Celine's hair danced as her sight locked on several giant serpent heads in the distance, that were conjured by water magic. It seems that you are not joking, Celine said with a serious expression. The dark sorceress transformed into a dark beam of light and flew towards the sky where the serpent heads were located. William did his best to stand up despite the shaking of his legs. Me. Thank you, Mama. William leaned on Ella's body as she helped him mount her back. 5 minutes later, they returned to the west gate to check the current state of the battlefield. Chapter 53. A Chance to Turn the Tables, Part 2. The iron fortress that Barbados summoned was shaking constantly. It was currently resisting the combined attacks of all the crocodiles and the serpent heads that were made from water magic. When Celine arrived at the battlefield, the first thing she did was fire berserk spells at the centennial dark-scaled crocodiles who were conjuring the water serpents. After their host lost their focus, the giant serpents slithering in the air collapsed into a rain shower. Celine hovered in the air as she gazed at the dark-scaled crocodiles with annoyance. Surprisingly, she was not alone. Floating beside her was Owen, who was also sizing up the crocodile army with a frown. Can you handle it? Owen asked. I can easily kill all the crocodiles except the big boss, Celine replied. However, if I wipe out its entire clan, it might enter a berserk state. Even if all of us joined hands, it will be quite difficult to deal with it. Millennial beasts like the golden-scaled crocodiles were one of the hardest creatures to kill because of their absurdly strong resistances to magic and physical attacks. I see, Owen replied with understanding. So we just scare them away, right? Yes, Celine answered. Back me up. I'm going to start. All right. Leave the support to me. I'm counting on you, old man. Celine summoned her grimoire and her face became extremely serious. Her lips moved as she chanted a powerful spell that would turn the tide of battle in their favor. Dark clouds hovered above the town of Lant as Celine released the bindings on her powers. Her eyes glowed a bright purple color as her voice echoed in the surroundings. Glorious darkness, my redeemer, I need you now in my time of need. Guide my hand so I might conquer your foes. Punish the fools who have forgotten your name, and doom them all to eternal darkness. Darkness breaker. Thousands of dark beams descended from the heavens as they crisscrossed against the dark-scaled tide. Even the golden-scaled crocodile wasn't spared from the attack, but it received very minimal damage. Black wisps started to emit from the eyes of the crocodiles as they stopped their attacks on the iron fortress. What Selene used was a spell similar to Mass Blind with higher efficiency. The golden-scaled crocodile stared at her in ridicule because it was unaffected by Selene's attack. The bastard has no intention of backing down, Selene frowned. Old man, prepare for the worst-case scenario. Owen sighed and nodded his head. He knew that Selene had decided to massacre the entire crocodile horde in order to show the golden-scaled crocodile that they weren't pushovers. You forced me to do this, you overgrown lizard, Selene clenched her fist. Because of you, I had to stop my experiment. I was only half a step away from succeeding, and you dared to get in my way. 2 years of preparation were lost and it was all because of you. I will not forgive you. Oh, dear, she snapped. Barbados grimaced as he looked at the crazed woman hovering in the sky. William, for your own sake, don't anger your master. She's the crazy kind of crazy. See, crazy kind of crazy. William gulped. How crazy is that? The worst kind, Barbados replied in a heartbeat. She's like a yandere, only 12 times worse. Yuck. William's legs trembled. This time, he was genuinely scared. If not for the fact that he was mounted on Ella's back, he might have already collapsed to the ground in fright. Revered father, the one who sits on the throne of darkness, your humble servant requires your aid. Lead me by my hand so I might vanquish my demons, Selene chanted. I plead this of you with open arms, O eternal guardian. Favor me with your illustrious might. Garden of darkness. Thousands of little red orbs floated above Selene. They were very similar to William's seed of darkness that he had shown to Selene and Owen a few days ago. With a wave of her hand, these seeds embedded themselves in the crocodiles who were currently suffering from blindness. Half a minute later, all the crocodiles started to toss and turn. Some of them even started their notorious death rolls that were known to shred their prey in the water. The golden-scaled crocodile felt that something was amiss, but it couldn't do anything at this point in time. The only thing it could do was to roar at Selene in anger. Roar as much as you like, you arrogant lizard. Selene was indifferent to her enemy's anger. Even the materials of your entire clan is not enough to compensate half of the precious ingredients I lost in my experiment. As if waiting for Selene's venomous words, one of the crocodiles suddenly stopped moving. Suddenly, a red flower that was 2 meters tall sprouted out of its back, accompanied by a blood shower. The flower glowed eerily as it sucked up all the blood of its host. A few seconds later, the crocodile stopped moving. What remained of it was only a husk deprived of all of its blood. The crocodiles roared in unison as they all felt their impending death. Hundreds of blood flowers bloomed as the dark-scaled crocodiles died in the hundreds. Seeing its clan dying in front of it, the golden-scaled crocodile body started to glow. It opened its mouth as a ball of energy slowly expanded in front of it. It's going to use dragon breath. Owen exclaimed. What are our chances of survival? Selene asked. 10. No, maybe 5%. Owen's face was as dark as the bottom of a kettle. If we don't stop it, even if we survive its attack, half of Lant will be destroyed. Selene looked at the monster in front of her fearlessly. Since the chance of survival was slim, she decided to also take a gamble. Owen, make sure to catch me if I fall. Huh, what do you mean? Selene didn't bother to explain and began chanting. The language she used was a very ancient one. A language that only a few within the continent were able to understand. Even Owen, who was learning many languages, didn't know the language Selene was using. Lirawasniel Arian Terrarialriath, Mariath, Telendon, Toleraniel. Ararosnal Treline Brades, Moraniel, Aerorilbras, Elyon, Threasrilriel Rinalol, Treloran, Morlilin. Neelan Bernal Aranas, Merlinian. Selene's index finger glowed in a bloody hue after her chant ended. She then pointed at the golden-scaled crocodile and sneered. Finger of death. A loud clap reverberated in the air as a streak of red lightning shot out from Selene's finger. The lightning squarely landed on the golden-scaled crocodile's forehead, creating sizzling sounds. Selene coughed up a mouthful of blood as she lost the power to levitate in the air. Owen hurriedly caught her and landed on the ground beside Barbados and William. Did we win? William asked. Did Master succeed? It was the question that was on everyone's mind, but no one dared to ask. No one knew the answer to his question. No one dared to answer this question. Celine was already unconscious, while Barbados and Owen's gazes were focused on the golden-scaled crocodile in the distance. They were looking for any signs that might tell them that Celine's final attack had some sort of effect on the enemy before them. They watched in dismay as the ball of light, that hovered a few meters away from the crocodile's jaws, was still expanding. Owen and Barbados sighed. They concluded that Celine had failed. The finger of death had a minuscule 1% chance to instantly kill a millennial beast in one strike. Celine knew that the odds were against her, but she still took the risk. But it seems that her gamble had failed, and now all of them were going to die from the dragon breath that was slowly gaining momentum. Owen was already chanting in an attempt to cast a barrier that would strengthen the iron fortress and help block the calamitous attack that was about to befall them. However, half a minute later, the ball of light completely disappeared. Without warning, the golden-scaled crocodile's head fell on the ground with a loud crash. Everyone was caught by surprise, including the crocodiles that were guarding their leader. A few seconds later, panic spread through the entire horde as the surviving members of the crocodile clan hurried towards the river in an attempt to escape. Out of the 10 centennial beasts, 6 still remained. They, too, didn't even bother to linger and roared to their subordinates to rally to their side. They led the survivors away and left Lant to find another hiding place where they could recover the numbers that they had lost in this battle. Although they had lost terribly, it would only take 2 years at most to increase their population again. The battle against the crocodile horde ended in such an unexpected manner that the people of Lant didn't even know how to react. Ironically, the first one to shout and cheer was none other than the crow-mouthed Theo. He raised his fist and roared. It was as if he was the one who single-handedly fought against the golden-scaled crocodile and sent the entire horde packing in fright. Soon, more cheers erupted as the citizens of Lant followed suit. The children started jumping up and down while the adults patted each other's back. The two siblings watched all of this with awe and admiration. I think I now understand how Lant survived the beast tide, Leah said with a tinge of envy. She looked at Celine with sparkling eyes as if she had found her idol. Indeed, Cedric replied. He, too, realized that the people of Lant were not as simple as they seemed. Lant's rise is set in stone. He didn't want to admit it, but he had been impressed by how the citizens of Lant resisted the beast tide. His only regret was that Fuchsia didn't have such experts under their service. Perhaps, if there were people like Celine working for his father, then their territory might still be standing in the western region of the Helen Kingdom. Chapter 54. Elven Prophecy, Part 1. After the battle, Owen tasked William to look after Celine, while he went to treat the people that were injured during the defense of Lant. Celine wasn't in any kind of danger. She was just thoroughly exhausted. While doing her experiment, she didn't eat or drink anything because what she was doing required extreme focus. Fasting in this manner was fine since she was already used to such a lifestyle. However, getting dragged away to fight a high-level battle while not in her peak condition still took a toll on her body. William looked at the disheveled woman with pity. Her skin was pale, her hair in disarray, and her face looked very haggard. Even so, she was still beautiful. The young boy wasn't able to stop himself from praising Celine even in her current state. Currently, he was taking his master back to her home while riding on Ella's back. Celine was very light, so it was not hard for William to hold her in place. It didn't take long for them to reach her home on the outskirts of Lant. Mama Ella, can you open the door for me? Me. Ella pushed the door with her hoof and it opened without any resistance. Due to William's strength stat, it was quite easy for him to carry Celine with both arms. Intruder. Awak. Oliver, the monkey parrot, shouted from his perch. Intruder. Shut up, Oliver. William replied in annoyance. Master is sleeping, don't be noisy. Oliver looked down on William with contempt. It was a bit irritated because the boy dragged away his mistress during an important experiment. The parrot monkey then looked at Celine, then back at William before clicking its tongue. Taking advantage of the mistress while she's unconscious. Brat, don't you have any shame? You can talk properly. William's eyes widened in surprise. Of course I can talk. I'm not a little monkey, like you, Oliver replied with irritation. Take the mistress to the second floor. Make sure not to do anything indecent, or else I'll bite you to death. I'm just a 10-year-old kid, how can I possibly do something indecent? A 10-year-old. The parrot monkey scoffed. Kid, other people may not know, but I know that your soul doesn't belong in this world. What are you talking about? William stuttered. The parrot monkey eyed the boy before it lifted its claw and pointed at the stairs. Let's talk after you properly tucked in the mistress. I, also, have a lot of questions for you. William looked anxiously at the parrot monkey before heading towards the stairs. His mind was in disarray and several questions appeared inside his head. 10 minutes later, he was sitting at the dining table on the first floor. He didn't know how the parrot was able to prepare some tea. But everything was already laid out on the table when he returned from his task of taking his master to her bedroom. Oliver seemed to be in a good mood, and the snarkiness from before had completely disappeared. "Have some tea first," Oliver said as he stood at the center of the table. "It's very rare for us to have guests, so I didn't have time to bake a cake. However, we still have cookies. I hope that they are to your liking." William obediently took a sip of the tea, but he passed on the cookie. He was more curious about how the parrot monkey knew about his identity. Ella stood beside William's chair. She was also curious about what the parrot monkey wanted to discuss with her baby. The goat didn't care about William's past or identity. The only thing she knew was that she had raised William since he was a baby. Even so, her curiosity got the best of her, so she decided to stay and listen. William stared at the parrot monkey with a complicated expression. Part of him wanted to roast the monkey so that his secret would be kept. The other half wanted to bury Oliver deep in the ground, so that his secret would remain. Oliver felt William's murderous gaze and decided to take the initiative to talk. "Don't look at me like that," Oliver narrowed his eyes. "I mean you no harm. I was just surprised that someone like you was born in this world." "What do you mean, someone like me?" William asked. "What do you know about me?" The parrot monkey grinned as it picked up a cup of tea and took a sip to quench its thirst. "I don't know much. All I know is that your soul doesn't belong to this world. However, you can't be considered an otherworlder since you were born naturally. That only means that this world had accepted you as one of its own, which is a very rare occurrence." "What do you mean a very rare occurrence?" William inquired. "Also, otherworlders. Are you talking about transmigrators?" "Transmigrators. You mean those souls who cross space and time and possess the body of dead or dying people?" Oliver asked back. "Well, there are a few of those cases. My mistress, grandfather was one of those transmigrators you are referring to." "Wait, hold on." William looked at Oliver with a serious expression. "There are transmigrators in this world. What's so surprising about it?" Oliver tilted his head. "This world is very vast. The possibility certainly exists. Although, their number would not exceed the number of fingers on one hand. The gods wouldn't allow more than 5 individuals in every era. You talked about otherworlders, what are they?" "Simply put, they are people from another world. You thought I was one of them?" "At first, yes." Oliver nodded his head. "But, since you were born naturally, then you are not counted as such." "Then how did you know?" William asked the most important question of all. "Do you have the power to look at a person's soul?" Oliver chuckled. Since his head was that of a monkey, the chuckle sounded irritating in William's ears. "Right now you are a 10-year-old, but the soul that I'm seeing using my ability is older. If I have to make a bold guess, you are in your late teens or early 20s, but not more than that." "This is bad," William thought. "If there are other people with this ability, then I'm in deep trouble." "What you're thinking will not come to pass, so you can relax," Oliver assured him. "My ability is unique and it was something that was given to me by my creator, Lord Darwin. I am fairly confident that only I have the ability to see through the soul of a person in this world." William sighed in relief as he heard Oliver's explanation. Although he still didn't know what kind of ability it possessed, he would like to believe that it was telling the truth. Seeing that the young boy had finally calmed down, Oliver decided to tell him the real reason why he wanted to talk to him. "William, I have a favor to ask. I'll listen to it first. Whether I can do it or not will depend on my mood." "TCH. You're like your grandpa, always haggling for benefits." Oliver shook his head helplessly before saying his request. "You don't have to do this request right away because the current you is still too weak and too young to go to that place," Oliver explained. "All I ask is that you do your best, because the mistress' life is at stake." William frowned. "What do you mean master's life is at stake?" Oliver sighed as he lowered his head and looked at the table. "Once upon a time, on the continent of Silvermoon, there was a family of elves that went by the name Rayleigh." Chapter 55. Elven Prophecy, Part 2. The Rayleigh family specialized in elven prophecy. Oliver continued his explanation. They had helped the elven race overcome great calamities and were treated with respect by the entire race. One day, the patriarch of the Rayleigh family had a revelation in his dreams. "What kind of revelation?" William inquired. "I'm not telling you," Oliver snorted. "Then what is the point of explaining if you're just going to leave me hanging?" Because you're still too weak, too dumb, and too stupid to understand. Why you? Are you picking a fight with me? No. I'm here to ask you a favor. This is not the right way to ask for a favor. William scoffed. You're just being annoying. Oliver pretended that he didn't hear William's outburst and tapped the table with his claws. When you grow older, you are destined, you might be forced by circumstance to go to the central continent. William eyed the parrot monkey in contempt, but he didn't say anything and listened to his explanation. You will find my mistress, twin sister. Her name is Lady Celeste. Twin sister. Master has a twin sister. Are you deaf? Didn't I just say that? You will find my mistress, twin sister, earlier. Oliver glared. Now stop asking questions and just listen. Would it kill you to just give me a straightforward answer, you monkey? William glared back. I'm not a monkey. I'm a parrot monkey, Oliver growled. You uncultured swine. Me. Sorry, Miss Ella, Oliver apologized. Your son is making things difficult for me. Me. Okay. I'll try to lower my IQ to his level. Me. Ella nodded her head. William's face darkened. He really wanted to strangle the stupid parrot monkey in front of him for hinting that he had low IQ. What was worse was that his Mama Ella acknowledged that he had a low IQ. Mama Ella, what happened to the promised love between mother and child? William lowered his head in defeat. He felt that the world around him had lost all colors as he drank the lukewarm tea in his cup. As I was saying, when you visit the central continent, you will find Lady Celeste, Oliver said in a slow and clear voice as if he was speaking to a 3-year-old child. Unlike Mistress, purple hair color, Lady Celeste has light green hair and blue eyes. They look exactly the same, so it's impossible for you to not recognize her. Are you following me so far? Yes. Ah, by the way, how old are you again? 10. Okay. So 10 years ago, that would make them 18, Oliver mumbled as he looked at the window of the first floor with a nostalgic gaze. The parrot monkey recovered a minute later and focused his attention on William. When you see Lady Celeste, tell her that Mistress needs the seed of life. That's it. That's it. So, I just need to tell her that Master needs the seed of life. William asked. Of course, you must also personally deliver the seed of life back to Mistress, Oliver replied with a serious expression. This is imperative. You cannot entrust it to anyone else. Do I make myself clear? Understood. William nodded. However, I don't understand one thing. What is it that you don't understand? How come you're so confident that I'm going to go to the central continent? Because the southern continent is too small for you. Oliver raised his head and stared straight at William's face. His voice was very confident, as if everything he had said had already been set in stone. Also, since you are mistress, disciple, you still need to go to the central continent whether you like it or not. And why is that? William asked with a raised brow. It's a matter of pride, Oliver replied. Any master would want their disciple to succeed, and for that to happen, you must go to the central continent. Only there will you find the things that you are lacking. William was still half in doubt, but he still decided to accept Oliver's explanation. Although the southern continent is not exactly small, it isn't exactly big either. You could easily fit 10 southern continents in the central continent. That just shows how vast the central continent was. Even so, William didn't really feel like going there. Although the life in Lant was crude and simple, it was peaceful. Also, the southern continent has many good things to see as well. He bid Oliver goodbye after finishing their discussion. The boy also promised to return the next day to check on Celine's condition. Although it doesn't show on his face, William was also worried about his master. Oliver watched William's retreating back from the window of the house. When the boy's image could no longer be seen, a sigh resounded in the room. He could still remember his master, Lord Darwin's sad expression as he told Oliver the prophecy that the Rayleigh family had decreed. On the 3rd day in the month of the High Priestess, a pair of twins is going to be born. One an elf, her blood diluted with darkness. The second, pure-blooded, a genius rarely seen in the world. On their 18th birthday, the Prince of Darkness will be born. One of them will be his bride, the other will be left out in the storm. Ruin and destruction will follow in his wake. His happiness or sorrow will drive you awake. In the end, you must remember, not all things are meant for forever. In the end, you have nothing to lose. It just depends on how you choose. Oliver, watch over Celine for me, Darwin said. If you ever meet that prince, make sure to check his character. If you think that he is dangerous, dispose of him. Regardless of the consequences, you must eliminate him. Master, what if he's not dangerous? How can he not be dangerous? He is the Prince of Darkness. He is bound to be dangerous. Oliver didn't want to argue with his master, but he was someone who didn't like to murder people in cold blood. What if he's not? If he really isn't a bastard, then I guess you can spare him. Jay, just make sure that he won't bully Celine or Celeste when he grows up. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Master. 28 years have passed since then, Master, Oliver said softly. I have finally found him. But, it seems that he is indeed not an ordinary prince. Oliver's eyes could see through the soul of people using the ability, Eye of the Soul. He had stayed by Celine's side in order to keep a lookout for the identity of the Prince of Darkness in the prophecy. He was surprised to see that William's soul was that of a teenager, and not only that, his soul contained 3 divinities. Oliver knew that the fabled prince had finally made his appearance. As to whether he would be a messiah or the bringer of ruin, Oliver didn't know. All he knew was that if William turned out to be a threat to his mistress, he would honor his promise with his creator, Lord Darwin, and kill him. William, I hope you don't disappoint me, Oliver muttered as it closed its eyes. For your sake, and mine. I pray that the day where I have to personally end your life will not come to pass. Oliver didn't know who the bride of the prince would be. The prophecy was vague, so no one could tell if the chosen one would be Celine or Celeste. However, one thing was for sure. Only one of them would be chosen, while the other would be cast to the side. As Celine's guardian for many years, Oliver was biased towards her. If William was really the prince of the prophecy, he would rather have the boy choose Celine rather than the spoiled genius of the elven race, Lady Celeste. If the boy is really good, maybe I should help and play matchmaker. Oliver pondered. Should I send Master a letter and tell him that the prince had appeared? The parrot monkey thought for a long time before finally deciding to write a letter. He reasoned that since this was an important matter, his master must be informed as well. What Oliver failed to foresee was that his action would send ripples through the elven continent of Silvermoon. These ripples would find their way to William, which would in turn make his life more complicated than it already was. Chapter 56. A Mother's Love. After leaving Celine's house, William was about to return to the Ainsworth residence when he heard the loud cry of a crane coming from the sky. Ella raised her head and saw a large crane with a wingspan of at least 5 to 6 meters. The Angorian goat bleated a greeting, and the crane let out another cry in response. William rarely saw cranes in Launt, and this particular crane was bigger than the ones he had seen in the past. Its white and pristine feathers glistened in the sunlight, and the golden marking on its head gave it a majestic and regal appearance. It gazed down at William with warm and gentle eyes, as if it was looking at an old-time friend. The white crane circled above William's and Ella's heads twice before landing a few meters away from them. After giving the crane a closer look, William estimated that it was at least 2 meters tall. Ella's ears perked up as the white crane started to walk towards them. It was not giving off any hostile vibes, but Ella raised her guard just in case. When it was only 2 meters away from William and Ella, it stopped. A soft cry escaped its beak, as if trying to converse with them. William had only communicated with goats, so he was surprised when he actually understood what the crane had just said to him. My name is Skyla. That was the message William received from the white crane. It looked at him with a gentle gaze as if waiting for him to give his reply. William. My name is William von Ainsworth, William replied. This is my mama Ella. Me. Crew. Skyla let out another soft cry as she raised her leg. With a glance, William noticed a cylindrical tube tied on its leg. It was similar to the tubes carried by the messenger hawks in their estate. For me? William asked. Skyla nodded her head in acknowledgement. William dismounted Ella's back and slowly approached the white crane. Skyla didn't move and simply waited for William to untie the object she was carrying. Can I open it? Crew. Ella walked close to William as she tried to take a peek. William's body stiffened when he read the first few sentences of the letter that seemed to be really addressed to him. To my beloved son, William. I greet you from the holy city of Nytfe Ethel. I do not know where to begin, because no matter what I say, it will not be enough to tell you how much I love and miss you, my son. However, know that not a single day has passed when Arwen Ainarian Ainsworth, didn't think of you. If possible, I didn't want to let you go, but circumstances forced me to make that choice. I know that you may not believe me, but it was one of the hardest decisions that I have made in my life. I pray that you will find it in your heart to forgive me for not being able to stay by your side for these past few years. Words are not enough to tell you how much I've wanted to hold you in my arms, and kiss you, before you close your eyes to sleep. William paused in reading the letter, because his vision started to blur. Although the handwriting was beautiful, he could see the dried-up tear stains that had merged with the ink of the letter. His heart ached for the sadness of the mother that he hadn't seen since he was born in this world. Only after he wiped away the tears in his eyes, did he continue to read the rest of the message that his mother wanted to impart to him. The white crane, Skyla, looked at William silently from the side. She could feel Arwen's bloodline flowing through William's body. It was the bloodline of a high elf that had the power to communicate with beasts at a deeper level. Although it was diluted, it still allowed William to communicate with Ella, and the members of his herd. When she saw William's tears, the white crane remembered her master, Arwen, crying as she wrote the letter that she had delivered. Both of them are crybabies. This was the thought that appeared in Skyla's head as she continued to observe Arwen's only child, William. Again, I would like to ask for your forgiveness because it took me 10 years to write a letter to you. I was afraid that you would not be old enough to understand my words, so I delayed sending my letters for a few years. However, after seeing the smiles of the children here in Nytfe Ethel, I wasn't able to hold back my feelings and decided to put them on paper. I want to know everything about you. The food you like to eat, your hobbies, the environment you grew up in, and whether your father's family is taking good care of you. Please, tell me everything. Even if it's just about the weather or the things you ate for breakfast. From this moment onwards, I will write to you at regular intervals. Since the Silvermoon continent is quite far from the southern continent, I could only send you 2 letters every month. I am very thankful that Skyla had taken it upon herself to deliver my letter to you. She's my spirit beast and I trust her completely. Also, she told me that she would like you to address her as big sister Skyla. It seems that she has the intention of treating you as her little brother. I hope you don't mind it. I would like to write more, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to stop myself from pouring out all my frustrations in this letter. I don't want to do that. Again, I pray that you will give me a letter in reply. Know that I will treasure your handwritten letters like a family heirloom. I will patiently wait for your reply. Forever loving you, Arwen Ainarian Ainsworth. William breathed heavily as he finished reading the letter. His heart ached inside his chest as he organized his jumbled thoughts. This was the first time that his birth mother had reached out to him and it caught him by surprise. If someone were to ask him if he hated his mother, Arwen, the answer would be a big no. Although he didn't know the circumstances, his grandpa had told him that his mother was carrying a heavy responsibility. Her decision to send William to Lant was to ensure his safety. William's feelings for Arwen were neither hot nor cold. Right now, Arwen was a stranger to him. Although she was the one that gave birth to him, he hadn't seen or interacted with her for these past 10 years. However, the moment he read his mother's letter, the feelings that had been dormant in his heart suddenly burst forth. The sweetness, the bitterness, and the ache, all melded together and gave William a taste on what it was like to connect to someone that was miles away from Lant. He carefully folded the letter and placed it inside his ring of conquest. William planned to read it again later after he had calmed down. The white crane looked at him and let out a soft cry. It released William from his daze and made him realize that he was supposed to write a reply letter to his mother. Be big sister, Skyla. Crew. What is my mother like? Can you tell me more about her? Skyla looked at William with a soft gaze. Her eyes were saying, this is going to take a while, so why don't we find a place to talk instead of standing here? William looked at his surroundings and gave an awkward cough. The two of them were standing near the road and it was not an appropriate place to have a lengthy talk about his mother. Let's go to the residence. I will also ask my Aunt Helen to prepare food for you. Crew. William, Ella, and Skyla rested in the garden. The white crane started her tale, and William gave her his undivided attention. The crane spoke of the Silvermoon continent, the holy city of Nytfe Ethel, and the Ainarian family. Skyla was a good storyteller. She didn't mention Arwen's hardships, and only talked about the fun and amusing things about her. Little by little, William started to weave a picture of his mother inside his head. A beautiful elf, with long blonde hair, and light green eyes that would melt the hearts of any man who gazed upon her. Skyla also had a mischievous side on her. She told William stories about his mother like an auntie on the street that liked to gossip. William chuckled from time to time as he pictured his noble mother being buried by stacks of papers. Ella, too, listened with a serious expression. She was very curious about the birth mother of her baby. When Skyla finished her tale, the sun was already about to set. William thanked her profusely for telling him about his mother. He then busied himself in writing a reply letter that Skyla would be carrying back to the Silvermoon continent. After writing his letter, William pestered James for a storage ring that he could use to store the gifts that he planned to give to his mother. James agreed to his request and even opened the storehouse in order to add some special products from Lant. William wanted to give Arwen a special gift that belonged to him, but he couldn't think of any. In the end, he decided to give her the cloak that was made from the pelt of the thunder-horned wolf that he had personally slain in battle. Helen had stitched William's name on the cloak, and the boy thought that it was a suitable gift for his mother. He placed the storage ring inside the cylindrical tube, along with his letter. William personally tied the tube on Skyla's leg and ensured that it was firmly held in place. Before taking off, Skyla nuzzled the side of William's face as if remembering his scent. With a soft cry to say her goodbye, she flew towards the moonlit sky bound for the Silvermoon continent. William watched her go as he placed a hand over his chest. He made an oath that someday in the future, he would personally go to the holy city of Nytfe Ethel and reunite with his mother. Whether their reunion would be filled with happiness or tears, only time would tell. Chapter 57. Reaping benefits amidst the chaos. 5 hours after Skyla left the skies of Lant, William and the goats gathered inside the goat shed to plan their strategy in exploring the dungeon. He knew that the time would come when he would reunite with his mother, but until then, he would have to focus on getting stronger. After a unanimous vote, everyone decided that they shouldn't go to the 14th floor where the goblin shaman resided. There were a couple of reasons for this, but it was mostly due to the trauma that William and the goats had experienced during their last battle. Also, William's Dark Mage job class was still level 0. In order to fight against the Hobgoblin Shaman, William must first reach level 15 in order to gain sufficient skill points and learn the skills to counter its dark magic. For that to happen, they decided to just focus on gaining experience on floors 11 to 13. William, Ella, and the goats approved of this plan. After making their last-minute preparations, they once again returned to the Goblin Crypt. Goblin Crypt Floor 11. Express gain 220. Express gain 220. Express gain 220. Express gain 220. William and the goats started to sweep the entire floor hunting for hobgoblins as experience points. The subclass that was currently equipped was Dark Mage, while the supporting spell that William chose from the Ice Mage job class was Mana Regeneration. Due to the system, William was able to choose one skill that he could use even though he had switched his job class. The system allowed William to equip one skill per job class as long as the requirement was met. What was the requirement for the support skills to work? The job class must be at max level. Since William had the Ice Mage at max, he was able to choose one spell from the Ice Mage job class and place it in the support magic slot. This was the magic that William could freely use regardless of what kind of job class he was currently using. It was one of the perks of having the blessing of the god of all trades, and William was very satisfied with this feature. After all the mobs in the 11th floor had been cleared, they immediately headed towards the 12th floor. The teamwork of the goats was starting to bear fruit as their speed in clearing the floors increased. William and Ella didn't join the battle. They just stayed in the rear and watched as the Angorian goats developed their battle sense. Battle sense was a skill that could not be taught. It was something that could only be learned through first-hand experience. The Angorian goats had good temperaments, so it wasn't easy for them to become warriors at the get-go. William and Ella had spent years in the Goblin Crypt before they developed their own battle style. If they hadn't encountered the Hobgoblin Shaman on the 14th floor, William was sure that they would have already cleared the 14th floor long ago. Remember, don't let your guard down, William reminded the goats. Even though there isn't a single monster that can threaten you on this floor, you mustn't be too overconfident. Always work as a team to achieve victory. Me. The goats bleated their agreement as they focused on the new battles that they were going to face. It took them 8 hours to clear the 12th floor, and 10 hours on the 13th. William's Dark Mage job class had gained a total of 11 levels in this dungeon expedition. After clearing the 13th floor, he decided to return and call it a day. Ella and the goats had no complaints as well. Although the experience points they gained weren't much, they still managed to get a level each. Name: William von Ainsworth. Race: half-elf. Current express: 146,283. 146,283. Dark Mage LVL 11. Current job express: 455 13,316. Name: Ella. Race: Angorian War Ibex. Level 11. Strength 51. Agility 108. Vitality 50. Intelligence 40. Dexterity 30. Current express 21,894 26,630 seconds. Dash. Race Angorian goat. Level 21. Strength 10. Agility 28. Vitality 10. Intelligence 2. Dexterity 2. Current express 7,033 42,508. Dash. Tomorrow, we will be able to reach our target level. William yawned as he embraced his Mama Ella to sleep. Good night, Mama, me. Ella nuzzled the side of William's face to bid him good night. The goat should remain still, and only the sound of William's, and the goat's, deep breathing as they slept echoed within its walls. Ella watched her wards with a gentle gaze, before she, too, closed her eyes to sleep. Dash. Somewhere near the Windkeep Citadel, a great battle was taking place. James, along with the masters of Lant, were kiting the big shots of the beast tide from afar. They were trying to split the attention of the monsters in order to help the offensive of the Helen Kingdom break the beast tide's battle formation. Kiting is a term mostly used in games when you attack the enemies from a safe distance so they can't attack you back. Those bastards must be so annoyed right now, James chuckled as he watched John, Blitz, and the Sentinel of Lant, Trent, harass the ranks of the monster army from the air. Sentinel was one of the job advancements of the sniper class. In order to change to this job profession, an important requirement had to be met, and that was to single-handedly slay an adult dragon. Basically, Sentinels were dragon slayers, and every faction in the continent wanted one to join their ranks. In the southern continent, there were only 2 dragon slayers. One was Trent, and the other one was serving in a different kingdom. Marcus, who was seated on top of his mount, Thunder, nodded his head in agreement. We're lucky that the big boss of the beast tide was a flood dragon. Due to Trent's harassment, it couldn't command the monster army effectively. Even so, this will still be a very difficult battle for the kingdom, Jekyll commented. The beast tide has the Harpy Queen to command the army from the air. On the ground, they have the Lamia Queen and the Garm to take charge. Those 2 cannot be underestimated because they are very sly monsters. It's fine as long as we keep the flood dragon busy, a monk holding a wine jar said in a casual manner. According to my prediction, the winner of this war will be determined in 2 days' time. Dwayne, you already saw all the big shots in the monster army. James looked at the monk, who was happily drinking from the wine jar in his hand. At most we need to deal with 3 of them. What are our best choices? Dwayne burped and closed his eyes. Of course we need to take the flood dragon. It is the best catch and we can't let the nobles get it. As for the last 2, I think the Orobro, Golden Ape, and the Amphisbena, 2-headed serpent, will be very helpful in Lant. I can understand about the Amphisbena, but Orobro. That one needs careful consideration, James replied as he played with his beard. A single punch from that golden ape can demolish the walls of the Windkeep Citadel with ease. Ah, about that, boss, Dwayne said with a mischievous smile. I am looking for a beast companion, and that monkey is the one that I've always wanted. For it to appear here can be considered a fateful encounter, don't you agree? You still have a big appetite, James grinned. How confident are you in subduing it? As expected of boss, Dwayne grinned and pressed both of his palms together. I have already prepared for this day for many years. I alone can deal with that monkey. What I need to ask from everyone, and boss, is to just lure it to our direction. I'm confident that I will be able to subdue it with ease. Okay, we will move when the Helen Kingdom launches their full offensive, James nodded his head. The night passed swiftly as James and the others lay in wait. They were like a pack of bandits waiting for the treasures to be drawn in their direction. For them, the outcome of this battle had already been set in stone. What they needed to do was to reap as many benefits as they could during the chaos, and return to Lant in a triumphant manner. Chapter 58. Time for you to become my slave Tilda. It's nice to see that you are looking very beautiful today, Master, William greeted Celine with a smile. Celine was seated on the couch on the first floor, wearing a black dress that covered every inch of her body except her neck and head. Even so, it wasn't able to hide Celine's beautiful curves that made William fall into a daze. In Celine's eyes, William was still a child, so she didn't pay much attention to his reactions. She nodded her head with a smile as she made a gesture for the little boy to come closer. Since you have accepted me as your master, it is only normal that I give you a gift in return, Celine said as she took a beautiful collar out of her storage ring. This is your gift as my disciple. Wear it proudly on your neck. William accepted the collar and appraised it using his skill. Collar of Wisteria. An ornate collar made from mithril forged by an elven master from the Silvermoon continent. This collar is embedded with runic language that makes whoever wears it become Selene di Wisteria's slave for 4 years. Increases resistance to curses by 50%. Cannot be removed except by Selene di Wisteria. Hyuk. William almost dropped the collar in his hands as he read its information. Master. This collar is too precious, William stuttered. Allow this humble disciple of yours to decline your magnanimous gift. I am not deserving of your grace. He then hurriedly tried to return the collar, but Selene's smile froze him in place. What's this? Selene asked. I prepared this gift just for you, and you don't plan to wear it. Master, this humble disciple is not worthy. William answered with a serious expression. FCK. You think I'm stupid. Why should I wear a slave collar? This sir refuses to become a slave. Selene chuckled, but her eyes, that were locked on William, were screaming murder. Little Will, are you defying your master's orders? Master's orders are something that this disciple would gladly follow, William replied in a respectful and righteous tone. However, I am not deserving of this amazing gift that Master has bestowed upon me. But, I insist that you have it. In that case, I will treasure this gift with all my heart. William hurriedly placed the collar of Wisteria inside his ring of conquest, but the magical artifact refused to be stored inside it. Selene watched this scene with amusement. William huffed and puffed in an attempt to force the collar to the storage ring, but it yielded no results. William, wear it, Selene ordered. If you do, I promise to give you additional rewards. Master, it's fine. I don't need any additional rewards. William stated in a righteous manner. Being your disciple is all the reward that I need. Brat, are you going to wear it or must I force you to wear it? I'm not going to wear it. Ha. It seems that you're not as stupid as you look, but it's too late. Your fate was sealed the moment you entered my house. Selene let go of any fake pretenses and cast a paralyzing spell on William. The boy's stiff body fell onto the floor, which startled Ella, who was standing by his side. Ella realized that her baby was in danger, so she immediately charged towards Selene in order to protect him. However, the dark sorceress had already anticipated this to happen. A blue orb shot from Selene's fingers and hit Ella at point-blank range. Immediately, the goat collapsed to the floor, deep asleep. Mama! William screamed. Master! What are you trying to accomplish by doing this? Even though his body couldn't move, his mouth was free to say whatever he wanted. I'm just strengthening the bonds of our master and servant, master and disciple relationship, Selene answered with a smile. Now, Little Will, time for you to become my slave. When Barbados told William that Selene was the crazy kind of crazy, he didn't believe him completely. Now, he had no doubt that his master was indeed crazy. For her to try to enslave a 10-year-old boy with a smile on her face, that was free of guilt, was a very scary thing to see. Selene took the mithril collar from William's hand and was about to put it on William's neck when the boy asked her a question. Master, why? William asked. Why must you do this? The young boy looked at Selene with a face filled with injustice. She could see the tears that were about to fall at the side of the boy's eyes as he spoke of his grievances. Little Will, don't think bad of me, Selene said in a soft voice that was as smooth as silk. It's just that my experiment failed because you disturbed me when I was at the crucial stage. Don't you know? I spent many years gathering those ingredients. I spent a lot of resources to get them, and what did I get in return? A bunch of crocodile hides. This is not what you call equivalent exchange, my little disciple. Selene caressed the side of William's face. Either your grandpa pays me up in full, or you have to serve me for 4 years of your life. Either way, it would still not be enough to pay for the losses that I incurred to protect Lant. Still, isn't this unfair? William tried to use reason. Since when did life become fair? Selene asked. Her expression gradually became cold as she looked down at the boy on the floor. Little Will, you have no idea what fairness is. Life has never been fair. There are people who have to beg in order to live, and there are those that were born with a silver spoon on their mouth. Both are people, but their circumstances are like heaven and earth. William, the only one who gets to decide what is fair or not, is the one with the bigger fist. Selene's soft and delicate hand caressed William's cheek. Right now, I have the bigger fist. Because I am stronger than you, I can bully you. This is the law of the strong. Seeing William's unresigned gaze, Selene no longer argued with him and placed the slave collar on his neck. A resounding click echoed inside the room as the mithril collar glowed on William's neck. Dash. Warning. Host is being enslaved. Closing square bracket. Opening system's defensive measures. Warning. System's current rank is insufficient to override the enslavement process. Closing square bracket. Enslavement process completed. Closing square bracket. Host is now a slave of Selene di Wisteria. Enslavement duration. 4 years. Dash. William felt his consciousness blur as his gaze clouded over. He could feel his strength leaving his body. He tried to raise his head to look at the beautiful woman who was looking down on him, but his vision was already blurry. Sleep. A soft and almost musical order reached his ears. When you wake up, your apprenticeship will officially begin. When William closed his eyes and fell asleep, Selene patted his head gently. The cold and arrogant expression she had a few minutes ago were now gone. Instead, she had a sad look on her face as she looked at her one and only disciple. I'm sorry, William, Selene said inside her heart. It's fine if you hate me. But this is the baptism that all dark mages has to go through. It doesn't matter how much you resent me. I will take it all. This is my duty as your master. Oliver, the parrot monkey, eyed William from his perch and sighed internally. His mistress might act crazy at times, but he knew deep inside that she was a very kind and caring person. The loyal guardian knew that Selene was doing this for William's own good, but this was something that he couldn't tell the boy. Oliver decided to observe for now. The only problem was William's family. The parrot monkey was sure that the Ainsworth family would definitely be enraged by Selene's arbitrary action. Dash. Chapter 59. Enjoy your first taste of suffering. When William opened his eyes, he found himself in an unfamiliar place. Where am I? William frowned. Although the place was dark, his night vision activated and it helped him scan his surroundings. With a glance, his intuition told him that he should be somewhere underground. When he tried to move his body, he was surprised to discover that his arms and feet were bound by metallic chains. He tried to free himself from the bindings, but his current strength was not enough to break free. Me. A familiar sound reached his ears and William hurriedly looked to his right. Mama, are you all right? Me. Ella's feet and neck were held by chains, making it impossible for her to break free. Ella was stronger than William, so if she wasn't able to break her bindings, it would be more impossible for him to do so. Finally, you're awake, Selene's voice reverberated in the room and William could hear the tinge of amusement in them. Don't bother to free yourself from those bindings. Those chains were made from adamantium and runic languages were set in place so that you couldn't use magic. Master, I don't care if you imprison me, but please, let Mama Ella go. William pleaded. You can do anything you want with me, but don't hurt her. Me. Ella bleated in disapproval. She wouldn't leave William no matter what, even if Selene freed her from her shackles. How touching, Selene replied. This is the first time I've seen a human. No, a half-elf calls a goat his mother. As for your request, sorry, I have no intention of freeing the two of you. As your master, it is necessary for me to educate you properly. Oliver, I'll leave little Will's basic training to you. The parrot monkey appeared inside the room from who knows where. It then hovered in the air and gave William and Ella a sinister grin. Good day. I, Oliver, will be your trainer for today, Oliver said. Your first training is gaining resistance to curses. Without further ado, enjoy your first taste of suffering. Confuse Ray. Oliver shouted and 2 beams of red light shot out from its eyes. The beam hit William's body and the boy's expression immediately slackened. A few seconds later, he screamed and struggled within his bindings. The confused ray was one of the skills of a dark magician that could make its target enter a berserk state. William was currently in a berserk state as he growled and shouted like a crazy person who had lost his mind. Me. Ella screamed in anger when she saw William's current state. Her baby was in a deranged state of mind and bruises were starting to appear on his skin as he tried to break free from the metallic chains that bound him. Don't worry, you will also suffer the same fate, Oliver commented. Confused Ray. Ella wasn't spared and a red beam of light hit her, dead center. Me. Ella's berserk state was more wild compared to William. Ella rattled her chains without caring whether she bled or not. She tossed, turned, kicked, and screamed as she transformed into an Angorian war ibex. Oliver and Selene watched all of this with indifference. As dark magicians, there was a time when they, too, were subjected to harsh training. Oliver, continue to use Confuse Ray on them once they snap out of their daze. You already know how to gauge their limit, right? Yes, mistress. Good. Selene nodded her head. I'll leave the first phase of their training to you. Call me when it's over. By your will, my lady, Oliver bowed his head in acknowledgement. That day, William had entered the berserk state more than 50 times. He collapsed on his bindings with his saliva dripping at the side of his lips. Ella, too, was in a similar state, if not worse. Their wrists and ankles were bleeding due to their excessive movement, but the pain was not enough to bring them out of their unconscious state. Owen entered the room with a sigh. He checked William's and Ella's current condition before healing the injuries in their body. He fed them a special potion that was filled with nutrients. With this potion, they did not need to eat for 3 days, for it was potent enough to supply their body with the necessary sustenance they needed to survive. It was a potion made from the heart, liver, and blood of the golden-scaled crocodile. Owen had already been briefed by Celine of the training regimen that she had prepared for William. His task was to heal the injuries they would sustain from the training, and ensure that they would not die from hunger and starvation. The training for dark magicians is too harsh, compared to life magicians, Owen sighed as he finished his task. I just hope that Celine wouldn't break the boy with her training. A week passed by in a blur, and finally a group of people made their way towards the town of Lant. We're finally back, James said as he breathed in the air of his territory. Home sweet home. James was currently seated on the left shoulder of the Orobro golden ape and admiring the town of Lant from its vantage point. I'll inform the others of our arrival, John declared. His beast companion, Blitz, let out a shriek as it flew ahead of the group. I'll go as well, Marcus said as he urged Thunder to increase its speed. James, along with the 8 people that were left behind, took their time to arrive in Lant. When the giant golden ape appeared outside of town, everyone went into an uproar. The mighty beast looked so imposing that everyone looked at it with awe and admiration. Dwayne, who succeeded in taming it as his beast companion, grinned with pride. Among the millennial beast, the golden ape was considered to be in the middle of the SS-class spirit tier because of its well-rounded battle prowess. It was also the only beast who was capable of using the frenzy skill without losing its rationality. The frenzy skill is the upgraded version of berserk. The berserk skill would strip the user of its rationality in return for multiplying its strength threefold. Similar to berserk, the frenzy skill, on the other hand, would increase the beast's strength fivefold. Orobro was the only spirit beast in existence that was immune to the effect of the frenzy state, which made it a lean mean killing machine on steroids. Few monsters would be able to face it and survive its beating with an intact body. This was why Dwayne begged everyone to help him secure it when the all-out battle was taking place. James and the rest went back to their own lodgings to rest after arriving in Lant. The battle that they had experienced was quite intense, but the rewards were worth it. The old man was in a good mood and he walked towards the Ainsworth residence while humming a tune. Mordred followed him to the battlefield because he was worried that his father might get carried away if no one restrained him. They had left Owen in charge of Lant while they were away, for they knew that they could count on him to handle everything even if they were not around. When the 2 men arrived at their home, the one who greeted them at the entrance was Helen. Welcome back, sir, and young lord, Helen said with a smile. Ah, Helen, how is everything? James asked. Is my stupid grandson doing well? Little Will hasn't returned home for a week, Helen said with a worried expression. He's currently staying at Celine's house. When I went there to check on him, the only one I saw was Celine. She explained that little Will was undergoing training at the moment and couldn't be disturbed by anyone. Oh, training, is it? James smiled. Wait, why is Celine training William? Ah, didn't you know about it, sir? Helen tilted her head in confusion. I thought sir was aware that Celine had taken William as her disciple. Ho tilde. James played with his beard as he gazed at his son, Mordred. Is it true that William hadn't been home for a week? Mordred frowned. Yes, Helen replied. Young lord, to tell you the truth, I'm worried about him. James chuckled and patted Helen's shoulder. All right, I'll check up on William for a while. Make sure to cook my favorite dishes for lunch. I'm starving, Helen. Understood. Helen smiled. I'll prepare a feast for Sir's triumphant return. I'll look forward to it. James winked. He then made his way towards the south where Celine's house was located. Chapter 60. A man must learn how to pay his debts. Celine, what's the meaning of this? James roared when he saw the mithril collar on William's neck. How dare you enslave my grandson? When James arrived at Celine's house, the first thing he saw was William sweeping the porch with a resigned expression. For a man of his caliber, it was very easy for him to identify that the collar on William's neck was a slave collar. He barged inside the house carrying his grandson in his arms with a livid face as he called out to the master of the house. Celine, come out. If you don't, I'll tear your house into pieces. James threatened. Hump. I'd like to see you try to do anything to my house, old man, Celine replied as she made her way down from the stairs. James glared at the beautiful woman and pointed at William's neck. What's the meaning of this? Young lady, if you don't give me a proper explanation, I will have no choice but to punish you for bullying my grandson. A proper explanation? Celine smirked. Very well, here is your proper explanation. Celine walked towards James and shoved a scroll in his face. James grumpily took the scroll from Celine's hand and read its contents. 1 dragon heart, 3 horns of the great unicorn, a spirit core of a fighting jinn, 6 scales of kun pung, 1 tooth of tautite. James's eyes widened as he continued to read the rest of the contents that were written on the scroll. These are ingredients? James asked. Yes, Celine answered. Those are the ingredients that I lost while conducting my experiment. Do you know, old man? I was only a step away from succeeding when your grandson hawed, and begged me to save Lant. Save Lant? James frowned. Did something happen while I was away? The corner of Celine's lips curled up to a sneer. Little Will, tell your grandpa about the incident that happened while he was off to gain some profits. William sighed because he was duty-bound by the slave collar to speak the truth. He narrated the story to his grandpa and told him everything about the attack of the black-scaled crocodiles during his absence. James's face went from red to green when he learned that Lant had almost been wiped off the map because of his negligence. If not for Celine's intervention, he and his comrades would have returned to a place of ruins. Old man, if you can reimburse me with my losses, I'll remove the collar from William's neck, Celine said with a sweet smile. Cough up, and give me the goods and we can all pretend that this thing never happened. James gave an awkward cough as he patted William's shoulder. William, remember, a man must learn how to pay his debts. Grandpa, why don't you pay my debts in my stead? Silly boy, how can you ask your grandpa to do hard labor? Don't you know that I'm suffering from arthritis? BLLSHT. I didn't see you suffering from arthritis when you fought against the wolf tide. You were as hale and hearty as a teenager. Ungrateful grandson. James grabbed William's clothes and lifted him up with a hand. Have you forgotten that I was the one who fed you milk when you were still a baby? What load of crap are you spouting, old man? William roared. The one who gave me milk when I was a baby was Mama Ella. You fool. The one who raised your Mama Ella was me. Since she's the one who fed you milk, that is equivalent to me giving you milk. Ungrateful grandson. Stupid old man, if you've got guts, fight me for 200 rounds. You're asking for it, boy. The stupid grandfather and grandson wrestled each other like two monkeys. Even Oliver, the parrot monkey, had to admit that the two were really related to each other. 5 minutes later, the two fools panted as they glared at each other. James then reluctantly tore away his gaze and looked at Celine. How many years will he be your slave? 4 years. Of course, if you can pay me ahead of time, then I can free him anytime. Just 4 years? James questioned. Yes, only 4 years. Celine nodded. James stood up and fixed his clothes. Okay, we have a deal. Excuse me. William pounded his grandpa's stomach. How about my say in this matter? James grabbed William and took him outside the house to talk. When the old man deemed that no one would be able to hear their conversation, he gave William a serious gaze. Listen here, William. I understand that this may be hard for you right now, but bear with it, James said with a serious expression. Your master, Celine, had saved Lant. You might not realize it, but she had indeed suffered great losses when she went to battle the golden-scaled crocodile and his minions. Is it really that bad? William asked. Look at this list. James sighed as he gave the scroll to William. Everything written here is a treasure. When we joined the kingdom to fight against the beast horde, we managed to defeat the flood dragon. One of the materials on that list is dragon's heart. Although we have the heart in our possession, it doesn't belong to me alone. It was the reward that the group decided to give Trent for his help in slaying the flood dragon at a crucial time. Everything listed there is an SS class ingredient. It means that you have to hunt centennial, millennial, and myriad beasts to acquire them. William pouted as he looked at the scroll in his hand. There were over 25 ingredients listed on the scroll. If what his grandpa told him was true, then it meant that getting them all in a short period of time was impossible. Tell me, William, does Celine mistreat you? James inquired. Ever since you became her slave. Does she do things to you? Grandpa, listen, master tortures me every day, William whined. He told him all the bad experiences he suffered under Celine's hands. James listened to his complaints with a calm expression. His expression didn't change even though William made the events more gruesome than they originally were. "As that's so," James said in an unperturbed manner. "Then, William, tell me, did you really not gain anything from those experiences?" That. William wanted to say he didn't gain anything, but if he really did it, he would be lying. "That what?" James stared straight at the young boy's eyes. "Did you really not gain anything?" William lowered his gaze and sighed. "I did gain something. But, Grandpa, it really hurts. Have you heard of the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger?" James smirked. "This is exactly what is happening to you right now. Although you are suffering, you are also getting stronger. In the end, isn't it a good thing?" Seeing that his grandson had finally calmed down, James chuckled and lifted him off the ground. He then placed him on his shoulders as he took him to a hill overlooking Lant. What is that?" William gasped as he pointed at the Orobro at the distance. "What a big monkey." "Ape. Not monkey," James corrected. "That is an Orobro, one of the gains we acquired when we went to Windkeep Citadel to fight against the beast tide." "I want one too," William said with sparkling eyes. "It looks so cool." "It does look cool," James agreed. It was at that moment when Ella arrived beside the two of them. She didn't find William in Celine's house, so she decided to follow their trail, which led her to a hill overlooking Lant. After admiring the coolness of the golden ape in the distance, James took William back to the Ainsworth residence to have lunch. A feast was waiting for them when they arrived and William ate with gusto. Mordred, Anna, Leah, Cedric, and Helen were shocked when they saw the collar on William's neck. All of them became angry, but James explained the situation properly. Although Mordred, Anna, and Helen were still unresigned, they decided to trust James and let the matter go. However, that didn't stop Anna and Helen from spoiling William by piling heaps of meat on his plate. After lunch ended, James decided to take William back to Celine's house. "Will, I know that this may sound cruel coming from me, but 4 years as Celine's slave is a small price to pay for the lives of the people in Lant," James said as he walked beside his grandson. "If she hadn't stepped up to offer her assistance, many people would have died." "I know," William replied. "Grandpa, there's no need to say anything more. I understand. Although Master can get a bit crazy at times, she's a good person." "That she is." James nodded. "She's someone who knows what suffering means. Her entire life has been filled with suffering. Even now, she's still suffering. William, take good care of her. At least, here in Lant, I wish for her to suffer less." William really didn't understand what James was trying to say, but he still nodded his head. "I will do my best, Grandpa." "Me. I almost forgot about you, Ella. Be sure to look after William like you always do." "Me." William would be lying if he said that he didn't resented Celine. How could he not? However, aside from the training, his master didn't order him to do anything unreasonable. He could only sigh in his heart and tell himself that his enslavement will end after he turned 14. Since that was the case, he would just focus on his training and increase his resistance against dark magic. Oliver would often give him snarky remarks that a dark mage who was affected by curses from the same field had no right to call themselves dark mages. After giving it some thought, William felt that he had a point. If he could be immune to curses, it could be used as a trump card in the future when he fought against dark mages of the same rank. Chapter 61. Arwen's long-awaited letter. The cry of a crane echoed in the distance and Arwen hurriedly ran towards the balcony of her room. Her gaze locked on the black speck on the horizon that was slowly becoming bigger and bigger. As a high elf, Arwen was a very patient person due to her long lifespan. However, for some reason, she was feeling impatient. She wanted time to speed up a little faster, so that Skyla could arrive in front of her right this instant. The long and excruciating wait had ended when the crane finally landed on the balcony. Instead of greeting the crane, Arwen immediately untied the cylinder that was tied to her leg. Skyla started to peck Arwen's head in dissatisfaction because her friend didn't even greet her and just focused on the package that she had painstakingly brought with her from the southern continent. "Ouch. Skyla. Stop. I apologize for ignoring you. Please, stop pecking me." Arwen hurriedly apologized and did her best to pacify the disgruntled crane who had traveled a long distance to deliver her message and bring back her beloved son's reply to her letter. "Crew, after I delivered your letter for you, this is how you repay me." "Sorry. It won't happen again." "Crew, it better not happen again or else, I won't deliver your letter next time." "Skyla is the best." As expected of a royal silvermoon crane who was prided for their elegance, beauty, and kind heart. Crew. Fool. Your flattery won't get you anywhere. After 10 minutes of coaxing and a gracious serving of silvermoon milk fish, Skyla finally quieted down and closed her eyes to rest. Although traveling across continents wasn't difficult for her, a round trip from the Silvermoon continent and southern continent was still an exhausting journey to say the least. Seeing that her best friend had finally calmed down, Arwen heaved a sigh of relief and sat on a chair to read her son's letter. To be honest, she was afraid to read William's reply. What if he wrote that he hated her? What if he wrote a letter of complaint for abandoning him? As these negative thoughts passed through her head, Arwen felt that the cylindrical package she was holding in her hands suddenly became heavy. Arwen took deep breaths in order to calm her restless heart. No matter what, she had to know what William thought of her. As she opened the cylinder, a folded scroll and a ring fell into her hand. Arwen took another round of deep breaths before she unhurriedly unrolled the scroll to read William's reply. To my beloved mother who thinks of me every single day. Hello, and good day to you, mother. To be perfectly honest, it took me more than 15 minutes to write that single sentence because I have no idea on how I should start my letter. I didn't know that writing a reply letter was going to be this hard. Arwen lightly giggled as she read her son's first sentences. She could understand that feeling because she had experienced the same when she decided to write a letter to him. Her eyes wandered across William's handwriting. Although it wasn't as elegant as hers, she still fell in love with the firm and bright strokes that showed his determination to reply to her letter. Let me formally introduce myself first. My name is William von Ainsworth, the most handsome boy in the southern continent. Grandpa James said that I look just like you, mother, so that means that you are definitely the most beautiful lady in the Silvermoon continent. I was surprised when I saw big sister Skyla appear in lawn carrying your letter. I've never seen a white crane as big and as smart as her. She was very gentle and kind enough to tell me stories about you, my grandparents, the holy city of Nytfethel, and the Silvermoon continent. Big sister Skyla also said that although my mother is beautiful, she is also the biggest crybaby in the holy city of Nytfethel. Arwen's lips twitched when she read the part of her being a crybaby. She glared at the sleeping Skyla at the side. You traitor, Arwen thought. How dare you tell my son that I'm a crybaby? I'm not. As if sensing her glare, Skyla opened her eyes and gave her the, what? You have a problem with me. Sidelong glance which made Arwen immediately avert her gaze. Between Skyla and Arwen, the crane had always been the more aggressive of the two. She had been Arwen's protector for years and had treated the high elf as if she were her own little sister. This was why Arwen couldn't go against Skyla, even if she was made to drink 2 jars of courage. With a defeated heart, Arwen returned to reading William's letter. Don't worry, mother. Even if you are really a crybaby as big sister Skyla said, that won't change the fact that you are my mother, and I care for you. It is quite regretful that I didn't get the opportunity to see your face when I was still a baby. If possible, can you please send me a drawing of you, so that I may know what my beautiful mother looks like? My Mama Ella also wants to see you. Before I forget. Mama Ella is the one who took care of me since I was a baby. She's an Angorian goat and I grew up drinking her milk every day. In my heart, she is my second mother who is just as irreplaceable as you. I hope there comes a day when you can meet each other. I love her very much. I wish to meet her too, Arwen muttered. She wanted to meet William's second mother who had been with him since he was a baby. Arwen also felt envious, and jealous, of Ella because she had witnessed William's growth in her place. She could feel, based on William's handwriting, that her son really loved Ella. She even felt worried that William loved Ella more than he loved her. Although she could understand William's feelings for Ella because the two of them had been together for many years, she still felt bitter in her heart. Arwen, too, wished that she could have stayed by William's side and see his growth from a baby who could barely crawl, to a young boy who was as narcissistic as his grandfather's. Yes, James and Theoden were both narcissistic individuals. It seemed that both of their genes had been passed down to William. Mother, Lont may be the crudest place in the southern continent, but this small town where I grew up is very warm. The people here are lively and full of life. Uncle Mordred, Aunt Anna, Aunt Helen, Cousin Matthew, and Grandpa are very warm and loving people. I think of myself as a very fortunate person because every day is filled with love and happiness. That is why, mother, you don't have to worry about my well-being. I am very happy right now, and I feel like I'm the luckiest boy in the world to be part of this loving family. There are many more things that I'd like to say, but I'm afraid that my tears will start to fall if I continue to put it into words. Perhaps, I also received some crybaby genes from you, Mother. Rest assured, although I can't put the rest of my thoughts into words, I will make up for it in the gifts that I will enclose along with this letter. I managed to pester Grandpa James and he agreed to open the storage house, so that I can send you some of the specialties of Lant. I also added a few more gifts for my grandparents who I want to meet someday in NYTFE Ethel. I don't know if these gifts will be to their liking, but I hope that they will not turn them away. Lastly, Mother, even though this is the first time we've communicated with each other, know that I don't hate you. Although, I'm sad that we have to part from each other, I know that you did it for my sake. Words can't express how much I want to see you, so please, if possible, send me a painting of you. I will also ask Grandpa to have me painted as well, so that you will be able to see how handsome and amazing your son is. I pray that our fated reunion will come a day sooner. Thinking of you from the southern continent. William von Ainsworth. Arwen's eyes blurred as she pressed the letter to her chest. She felt relieved, and happy that William didn't hate her. However, she also felt bitter because her feelings of love were overflowing, but she couldn't give them to him. Arwen's tears streamed down the sides of her beautiful face, but she made no attempts to stop them. Skyla, who was resting at the side, opened her eyes for a brief moment, before closing them again. Contrary to what Skyla had told William, Arwen was not a crybaby. As the saintess of the World Tree, it was impossible for her to show her emotional side to the public. Only when she was alone, and thinking of her departed husband, and their faraway son, does she allow the tears to fall from her eyes. She had to remain strong for both of their sakes, and Skyla understood this well. It was also for this reason that she was willing to undertake the long and dangerous journey to travel between continents to deliver Arwen's letter. If this was the only way to make her, little Arwen, happy, then Skyla would even face off against a dragon if it meant that she could bring William's message back to his loving mother's arms. That night, Arwen dreamed a happy dream. A dream where her beloved son was nestled inside her loving embrace, and no one in the world would separate the two of them ever again. Chapter 62. Time to go to the temple. When William returned to Celine's house, the beautiful lady was lying on the couch and taking a nap. James left because he didn't want to disturb her and simply told William to take good care of himself. Since he had accepted that his grandson was now Celine's disciple, it also meant that he would be staying in Celine's house for the time being. This was how apprenticeship was done in their world. Gaining a disciple was similar to adopting a child. As a master, it was their responsibility to take care of their disciple till their apprenticeship was over. William and James had also discussed along the way that a goat pen and goat shed should be built outside of Celine's house. He needed to take care of his herd as well, so bringing them to Celine's place was the ideal thing to do. 5 days later, a brand new goat pen and shed were constructed on the property of the Dark Sorceress. James paid for the labor and materials, and also made sure that the new goat shed would be comfortable enough for William and the rest of the goats to stay in. He knew that this was going to be William's secret base when he was going to head inside the Ring of Conquest. With that in mind, James asked the carpenters to make it relatively secure so that no one would be able to get in, unless they entered through the front entrance. After 2 weeks of torture, William and Ella had started to develop some resistance to the Berserk curse. Although they suffered, they had also gained a lot through the experience. Even though they had entered the Berserk state, there were times where they were able to retain their state of mind to a certain extent. Seeing that the training was quite effective, William pleaded with Celine to add Kronos, Aslan, and the rest of the goats in their training. Celine didn't particularly mind and simply found the notion interesting. Oliver was still the one in charge of the training, so adding a few more goats into the mix wouldn't be a big deal. After 2 months of extensive training, William and his herd managed to clear the 14th floor with flying colors. On their first few tries, the Goblin Shaman was able to neutralize their party with blind and berserk spells. Although William and Ella had raised their immunity, the Hobgoblin Shaman was a master in dark magic. Aside from curses, it was also able to wield the power of darkness up to the 4th circle. What did that mean? It meant that William and Ella had to deal with a bona fide elemental mage, which was a very dangerous foe to face. A Hobgoblin Shaman was equivalent to William in terms of firepower. Even Ella in her War Ibex form couldn't afford to take a direct hit from its elemental attacks. Fortunately, it only took 2 months before the group managed to overcome this obstacle. William, Ella, and the goats advanced steadily as they made their way towards the lower floors. The 15th floor was quite challenging because every group of hobgoblins had one hobgoblin leader and hobgoblin shaman in their ranks. Of course, after the goats had developed an immunity to certain spells, the battle didn't go as badly as before. William's battle style had also greatly improved and he had now become a pseudo-battle mage. Although he still hadn't polished his close combat skills, he was not helpless when fighting enemies at close quarters. Another month passed, and William managed to conquer the goblin crypt up to the 17th floor. He could still advance their exploration, but he decided to put it on hold, at least for the time being. The reason why he decided to stop their advance was because of the pending quest that he hadn't finished to go to a temple in order to talk to Gavin. Since the remnants of the beast tide had mostly been eradicated, it was now safe again to travel in the western region. All he needed to do was to gain permission from his master and his grandpa to leave Lant and finish his pending mission. All right, I will approve of your request to visit the temple, Celine said in a lazy voice. However, you must bring me a souvenir when you get back. Thank you, Master, William replied. What kind of souvenir do you want? Any kind as long as it's good. Understood. After getting his master's approval, William sought out his grandfather next. Visit the temple. James played with his beard for a while as he weighed the pros and cons of sending William outside of Lant. Isn't it fine? William insisted. The beast tide is already dealt with and the roaming monsters are being hunted down. Besides, I am not going alone. Mama Ella and the other goats will accompany me in the journey. Well, I guess you can go, James relented after his grandson's constant pleading. But, you must promise me one thing. If you face a monster that is impossible to beat, you must escape as fast as you can. Do I make myself clear? I promise. William nodded his head like a hen pecking rice. Thank you, Grandpa. I will be careful. Go and find Helen, James ordered. She will help you prepare the things that you will need for your journey. According to my estimation, you will be able to reach the temple in 4 to 6 days. Tell her to give you enough supplies for 10 days. Okay. William hurriedly left and went to look for his Aunt Helen. He was afraid that James would change his mind and prevent him from leaving Lant. The old man watched the young boy go with a chuckle. Ezio, James said softly. A shadow appeared inside the room and a man wearing a black robe appeared in front of James. Sir. Ezio bowed his head. Watch my grandson from the shadows and ensure his safety. I hear and obey, my liege. Ezio disappeared from the room. James looked outside the window and stared in the direction of the Holy Temple. He hoped that his grandson wouldn't encounter any mishaps on his first journey outside the borders of Lant. Make sure to pay attention to your surroundings, Celine said as she stood at the north gate of Lant to bid William goodbye. Also, if you encounter bandits along the way, just kill them. Killing them will ensure that the innocent don't have to suffer. Master, are you seriously asking a 10-year-old kid to kill people? William asked with a pout. I killed my first bandit when I was 8, Celine glared at him. Are you a man? Why are you such a PSSY? I killed my first bandit when I was 9, James commented. As my grandson, you should do your best to kill these bastards at the first opportunity. How barbaric. William thought. Are the people of this world really this indifferent to killing? William came from Earth, so his mindset, when it came to killing people, was very different from the views of the inhabitants of Hestia. If possible, he didn't want to end the life of a human being. Killing monsters was fine, because for him, they were not human. Hestia is the name of William's current world. However, he knew that if he was pushed into a corner, he would also steel himself to commit the deed even if he didn't want to. Little William, look after yourself, Helen said as she helped him wear a traveling cloak. I have packed you enough food and clothes for 10 days. Make sure to eat on time and rest on time, okay? Thank you, Aunt Helen. William smiled and nodded his head. I'll come back as soon as I can. Good. I will be waiting. William waved goodbye before mounting Ella's back. Master, grandfather, take care. Come back early, Celine said as she waved back. Feel free to pick up a girl to bring home as a wife when you return, James shouted. It doesn't matter how many you bring back. We'll take them all. William almost fell off Ella's back when he heard his grandfather's shameless words. The old man still hadn't given up on the notion of playing matchmaker for William. He was even insisting that the more wives he had, the better. Did he think that beautiful girls grow in the wild like cabbages? As the town of Lant disappeared behind his back, William felt a sense of anticipation. It was his first time going on an adventure away from home, and it was making him excited and anxious at the same time. What he didn't know was that during this trip towards the Holy Temple, he would meet someone that would play an important role in his life in the not-so-distant future. Chapter 63. Traveling Together, Part 1. Est, can you accomplish this task? I can. Good. A woman who seemed to be in her early 30s nodded her head. Your father is expecting great things from you. Don't let him down. I will do my best. Mother, the boy looked up at his mother with a serious gaze. I will not let you and father down. The woman sighed and pulled the boy in her embrace. She then brushed his head affectionately for a time before letting him go. Nana, Herman, I leave Est in your care. The woman looked at her two loyal retainers. Make sure that he returns safe and sound from his mission. Yes, my lady. By your will, my lady. 10 minutes later, a wooden carriage made its way outside of the city walls and traveled into the darkness of the night. Their destination was the Holy Temple. The young boy looked outside the carriage window as they left the glorious city behind. Don't worry, father, mother, I will complete my mission, Est vowed as he looked at the stars in the distance. Your Excellency, Lady Astrid, please, watch over me. Dash. Brr. The water is so cold. William shivered as he washed his face using the water in the river. He just woke up a few minutes ago, and decided to wash his face in order to remove the last dregs of sleep in his system. Ella walked beside him and gave her morning greeting. Me. Good morning, Mama Ella. Me. After their daily greeting, William took out a wooden bowl from his storage ring and milked his Mama Ella. Although he was already 10 years old, he still drank her milk every day. Why? Because Ella's milk is delicious. Also, Ella would nag at him if he didn't drink her milk on a daily basis. William could drink it directly from the source, but he decided to use a cup instead. Ella didn't seem to mind this change in her baby's routine. The only thing she cared about was whether or not William drank her milk. Daily quest. Drink milk has been completed. Closing square bracket. Rewards. 6 express points. Closing square bracket. I still don't understand why this quest still works up to this day, William mused as he looked at his notification window. Back when he was still a baby, he depended on this daily quest in order to gain some express. Now, this notification reminded him of the time when he was still a weak and feeble baby that could only stay still and wait to be fed on a daily basis. A nostalgic smile appeared on William's face as he remembered the shenanigans he and Ella had during his childhood. He was about to go into a daze when he felt a wet sensation on his cheeks. Me. Sorry, Mama Ella, William apologized as he caressed Ella's neck. I was reminiscing about the past. Me. The time when I was still a baby. Me. Time flies so fast. Everything that happened was like yesterday. William closed his eyes as he hugged Ella's neck. I'm very lucky to have you, Mama. Me. Ella closed her eyes and pressed the side of her face on William's cheeks. The mother and son pair stayed like this for a few minutes. They only stopped when they felt the other goats starting to stir from their slumber. William prepared a small fire where he warmed his breakfast and Ella's milk. Ella and the other goats drank from the river and munched on the grasses until they had their fill. After eating their breakfast, William, Ella, and the goats continued their journey. It had been 3 days since they left the town of Lant. So far, they hadn't encountered any bandits or any roaming monsters along the way. However, they did see several ruins as they journeyed towards the Holy Temple. These ruins belonged to towns and villages that used to thrive in the western region of the Helen Kingdom. When William passed these villages and towns, the young boy would spend a few minutes offering a silent prayer to the people who had died in the incident. As someone who had memories of his reincarnation, he knew that these people would also be given another opportunity to live their lives all over again. The only difference was that they would no longer remember anything about their past lives. I pray that all of you find happiness in your next life, William prayed as he knelt on the ground. May your days be beautiful and bright. The goats stood still by his side as they looked at the ruins. They didn't make any noise and waited for William to finish his prayer. It was then when he heard the sound of a carriage being pulled from behind him. William didn't move and continued to pray. He didn't feel any malice coming from the carriage, so he decided to continue his prayer. The boy thought that they were just travelers who were passing by, so he just ignored their presence. When William finally finished his prayer, he was surprised to find out that the carriage had stopped a few meters away from him. The boy frowned and looked at the goats. For a moment, he thought that the goats were blocking the way so that the carriage was forced to come to a stop. Seeing that his herd was standing in a neat row and away from the main road, the worry in William's mind disappeared. The boy looked at the carriage and noticed a middle-aged man seated on the coachman's seat smiling at him. Lad, are you familiar with this place? A middle-aged man with graying hair asked. Sorry, but I'm not a local of this area, William replied. I am just passing through and saw these ruins. I see. The man nodded his head in understanding. Then, can you tell us where the Holy Temple is located? You're also on your way to the Holy Temple. William smiled. What a coincidence. I am, also, headed towards the Holy Temple. Oh, have you been there before, lad? No. This is the first time I traveled outside of my hometown, but I have a map with me. Can I have a look at your map, kiddo? I just want to know the general direction of the temple. Of course. William walked towards the carriage while pulling out the map from his storage ring. He handed the map to the middle-aged man in a very friendly manner. Kid, you shouldn't trust others too much, the middle-aged man said with a serious expression. What if I'm a bad person? I might just snatch this map and leave you behind. My goats are a good judge of character, William replied. Since they're not making any ruckus, then that means that you are not a bad person. You trust your goats that much. I trust them with my life. The middle-aged man didn't know if he should laugh or cry at the little boy's naivety, but William's carefree attitude left a good impression on him. The middle-aged man nodded his head a few times as he examined the map. It had been many years since he had been to the western region, and the recent calamity had drastically changed the scenery. The landmarks he remembered were no longer there, so he was having a hard time finding the road that would lead him to the temple. Fortunately, he sensed William from afar and decided to head in his direction. His gamble paid off and he was rewarded with a map that would lead him to their destination. Thank you, the man said as he returned William's map. You said that you are also traveling towards the Holy Temple, why don't we travel together? Fate has brought us together, William commented. I will accept your offer to travel together. The more the merrier. Ha ha ha. You are an interesting kid. Not only interesting, but handsome as well. Gwahahaha. What a chap. I like. The middle-aged man gave William a thumbs up. William grinned and mounted his Mama Ella. The middle-aged man was a very social person and he kept on chatting with William as the carriage and the herd of goats traveled side by side. Chapter 64. Traveling Together, Part 2. William listened to the old man's stories about his adventures and the cities he had visited during his younger years. Mr. Herman, do you know anything about the Central Continent? William inquired. The Central Continent. I've stayed there for a few years, Herman replied. That place is where the elites of the various continents gather. Why? Are you interested in going there, William? I don't know. William shook his head. However, there is a possibility that my master will ask me to go there once I grow older. Your master? Herman narrowed his eyes as he glanced at the collar on William's neck. He already noticed the slave collar on the young boy, but he didn't say anything about it. Although the Helen Kingdom is not supportive of the slave trade, it didn't make any moves to abolish it completely. Even in the capital, slaves were being sold as well. Herman just found it a pity that a boy like William had become someone's property. Ah, this. William touched the collar on his neck. This is just an accessory. My master gave it to me as a present. I see. Herman felt complicated. He wanted to curse William's master for tricking a child to become their slave. From what he could see, William didn't resent his master. In fact, Herman could tell that the boy genuinely respected him. Lad, what is your master like? Master. She's the crazy kind of craze, I mean, a very amazing person. She treats me very well. A snort was heard from inside the carriage. Suddenly, the voice of a woman reached William's ears. It was filled with disdain and made William think that she was currently having her period. I bet your master enslaved you because you are a half-elf, the woman inside the carriage said in disdain. Perhaps she will make you her boy toy once you grow up. A good-looking boy like you will definitely sell for a high price at the black market. It is true that I am very good-looking, William replied with a smile. Thank you for your praise, my lady. I'm not praising you, the woman snapped. I'm telling you that you are stupid for being enslaved. William scratched the side of his face while feeling helpless. He also didn't want to be a slave, but the circumstances were special. As for becoming his master's boy toy, William gulped at the notion of Celine stepping on his back with her slender foot. Ah, pay. What am I thinking? I'm not a masochist. William swatted the perverted images on his head. Nana, please, don't be rude, a voice that seemed to belong to a young boy reprimanded the woman. Please, forgive her outburst. She's not a big fan of slavery. I don't mind, William replied. I'm, also, not a big fan of slavery. These were the last words they exchanged with each other as they continued their journey. The awkward silence along the way made Herman sigh internally. He still wanted to continue to talk to William, but he was embarrassed by his colleague's earlier outburst. Me, Ella bleated as she told William her thoughts. Oh, there's a clearing up ahead, Mama. William asked. Me, Mr. Herman, there is a clearing up ahead, William said with a smile. It is a good place to take a rest. How about we stay there for lunch? Sounds like a plan. Herman nodded his head. Half a minute later, they came to a clearing where a river flowed at the side. The goats happily trotted towards it to have a drink of water. William followed behind them and refilled his water skin. He wasn't aware that a pair of clear, light brown eyes were watching his every move from inside the carriage. He's an interesting boy, Est said as he closed the partition on the carriage. You're too hard on him, Nana. I'm sorry, young master, Nana apologized. I'm just annoyed because those slave traders are getting out of hand. Even enslaving a child as young as him. Do you really think that is the case? Est asked. Young master. The collar on his neck was made of mithril. Don't you think that using pure mithril to make a slave collar is a waste? Now that you mention it, Nana had to admit that having a mithril collar was too luxurious for a slave. Even though William was a very good-looking half-elf, having a collar of that caliber was unheard of. In fact, this was the first time Nana had seen a collar made from pure mithril. The twin boys, Isaac and Ian, who were seated by Est's side, looked at him in confusion. Young master, is there something unique about that slave collar? Young master, does a slave collar made from mithril have special characteristics? I don't know if the collar is special or not. Est shook his head. All I know is that William's master may not be a simple person. This is the first time I've seen a slave collar made from mithril, and I can tell at a glance that it is of very high quality. Nana and the twins quieted down and observed William from the carriage's window. Herman had also gone to the river and was currently catching fish with his spear. The old fool took a liking to the boy. Nana snorted. He's really weak when dealing with kids that are the same age as his grandson. So you say, but haven't you taken a liking to him as well? Est smirked. William is a good person. Even I feel attracted to him. Well, as long as he doesn't hinder us on our journey, I don't mind if he travels with us. Nana closed her eyes. She pretended that she didn't hear Est's question. Suddenly, the carriage started to shake. An earthquake. Nana snapped her eyes open. Isaac, Ian, don't leave the young master's side. The twins nodded their head and unsheathed their daggers. Nana stepped out of the carriage in order to get a better idea of what was going on. Herman stood guard outside the carriage and gripped the spear in his hand firmly. The moment he felt the surroundings shake, he immediately ran towards the carriage in order to protect his young master. William, Ella, and the rest of the goats took a battle formation with William at its center. The young boy sat calmly on Ella's back as he focused his attention to his surroundings. It was then when two mountain trolls, the size of a small hill, appeared in the clearing. They were carrying tree trunks in their hands and brandishing them like weapons. Trolls. Nana narrowed her eyes. I'll take one, you deal with the other. Understood, Herman replied. Nana unsheathed her sword and charged towards one of the mountain trolls. Herman ran alongside her as both of them engaged the trolls to ensure that they stayed away from the carriage. The two mountain trolls were considered to be on the upper tier of level B threats, and they were very hard to kill. Their skin was as hard as rocks and their incredible strength makes them very lethal juggernauts. Also, these particular mountain trolls also have an annoying regeneration ability that made fighting them a headache for most people. Also, Nana and Herman were getting headaches because they wouldn't be able to kill the trolls unless they use fire or acid. The only thing they could do was to hurt them until the monsters thought that fighting them was not worth it. While the battle was taking place, another troll burst out towards the clearing while letting out a mighty roar. It ran towards the carriage carrying its giant wooden club with the intention of smashing it into pieces. No, young master. Young master. Nana and Herman lured the trolls away earlier in an attempt to prevent them from attacking the carriage. What they didn't know was that the trolls had the same strategy as well. They sensed the presence of the two powerful warriors, so they decided to split up and led them away from their prey. The third mountain troll was only 5 meters away from its target, when the carriage door suddenly opened. 3 figures jumped off the carriage and ran towards William. Seeing its prey run away, the mountain troll decided to pursue. Its strides were larger and faster than the children, so it overtook them with ease. Est, and the twins could only watch in horror as the monster slammed the giant wooden club towards them without any shred of mercy. Nana and Herman wanted to go back to save their young master, but the two trolls blocked their way. Young master! Nana screamed. She felt regret and helplessness as the monster bore down on her young master. I'm sorry, my lady. I'm sorry. Herman gritted his teeth and roared in anger. Desperation could be seen on his face as he watched the tragedy that was about to unfold. It was at that moment when a 2-meter-tall goat jumped over the three children. The large goat faced off against the giant club that was about to descend upon them. On her back was a boy with hair so red that it resembled a blazing fire. His wooden staff was poised to strike like a spearman riding his warhorse. Est's beautiful brown eyes watched as the small boy, who was the same age as him, created a miracle right before his very eyes. Chapter 65. When the Sky Falls Down. Est, remember this, you were born to do great things. Great things. Yes. The beautiful woman nodded her head as she lovingly brushed the young boy's hair. That's why, you must become strong. Only by becoming strong will you be able to do great things. Then, what if I meet an enemy that is stronger than me? Est asked. What must I do then? Run, the woman answered. Run as fast as you can. Then, what if I can't outrun it? What then? Then you just wait. The woman smiled as she stared at the young boy's face. Wait. Est tilted his head. Wait for what? Wait for a miracle to happen. A miracle. Yes. A miracle, the woman said with a smile. Est, when the sky falls down, there will always be people who will step up and carry its weight on their shoulders. Will I be able to meet such a person? Est asked. His face was half in doubt and half curious of the possibility of meeting someone who could create a miracle. Of course you will, the beautiful woman chuckled. If it's you, you are destined to meet such a person. Just know that if he really appears in your life, you'd better. Dash. When the third mountain troll appeared, Isaac and Ian immediately grabbed Est and jumped out of the carriage. They were his retainers and their duty was to ensure his safety. Originally, they thought that the troll would focus on the carriage, but they had underestimated its intelligence. Not only did it ignore the carriage, it immediately pursued them without batting an eye. No good, we can't make it, Est thought as he gazed at the hulking monster that had already caught up with them. He could only watch helplessly as the mountain troll swung its giant wooden club with the intention to kill. Est knew that, the moment that wooden club hit its target, he, along with the twins, would be turned into meat paste. Then it happened. A 2-meter-tall Angorian war ibex jumped over their heads. Its horns and hooves had a silver-blue color that shone like crystals. On its back was a young boy with flaming red hair, carrying a wooden staff. Time seemed to move in slow motion as the mountain troll and the goat carrying the young boy clashed. William's confident and powerful voice reverberated in the air as he shouted. Magnum burst. Est's eyes widened as he saw the mountain troll get pushed back during the collision. The mountain troll had a confused look on its face as it looked at its weapon and the boy who was riding on top of the goat. It seemed that it couldn't believe the fact that a boy could fend off its weapon with ease. If Est hadn't seen it firsthand, he, too, wouldn't have believed it. However, the evidence was right in front of his eyes and it made his heart beat wildly inside his chest. Mama Ella, let's go, William commanded as he jumped off her back. Me. Mass ice armor. Mass bestow. Leader of the herd. The young boy knew that his mama couldn't fight using her full power if he was to ride her into battle. Ella was currently in her war ibex form and William's buffs made her powerful. However, she was still weaker compared to the mountain troll who was at the upper tier of Class B monsters. Even so, she wasn't afraid because she was not fighting alone. William and the rest of the herd had already formed their battle formation. Ella was in the lead, with William at the rear. They had already shared an understanding when it came to fighting stronger enemies, so they weren't worried even if the troll was bigger and stronger than them. Wild charge. William ordered. Me. Ella charged like a raging bull to take the mountain troll head on. Aslan and Kronos led their teams in order to attack the troll from all sides, creating a pincer attack. William watched the battle with a serious expression as he supported his herd from the rear. Every time the mountain troll attacked the goats, he would summon 3 layers of ice wall to block its attack. Nana and Herman were relieved when they saw that their young master was safe from harm. They then vented their frustration on the 2 mountain trolls that were blocking their way. The 2 monsters suddenly felt extreme pressure as the 2 experts unleashed their powerful attacks without holding back. Mega kick. Me. Ella's kick connected and the giant troll was sent flying a few meters into the air. Glacial lance. William fired off the strongest attack in his Ice Mage job class. The glacial lance pierced the mountain troll's eye, making it scream in pain. Another glacial lance flew in the air and stabbed itself on the mountain troll's other eye, blinding it completely. Elyon, Kronos, and the rest of their team impaled the mountain troll's body with their horns. Ella, too, didn't miss the opportunity and delivered a wild charge at point-blank range, piercing the mountain troll's chest. The mountain troll could only swing its wooden club blindly in the air, hoping that it could hit something with its frenzied attacks. 2 minutes later, the mountain troll gave off a guttural roar and ran away in the opposite direction. Its powerful regeneration had allowed its eyes to recover enough vision to see its surroundings. Seeing that it couldn't beat its prey, it decided to retreat. The 2 other mountain trolls followed behind their leader in haste. The 2 humans that they had fought were lunatics and they didn't want to engage them any longer. William watched the mountain trolls run away with relief. Although they were able to fight it to a stalemate, it was still a Class B beast. This made the mountain troll very hard to kill. He never thought for a moment that they would be able to defeat it. The most they could do was to hurt it as much as possible so that it would call it quits. Of course, the goats didn't think that way. Ella, Kronos, Elyon, and the rest were sure that they could beat the monster if it hadn't run away. After defeating the hobgoblin shaman, the goats had regained their confidence and were raring to fight strong opponents. For them, the mountain troll was only an oversized goblin. As long as they could hit it, they could kill it. Good job everyone, William said as he motioned for the goats to gather. Is anyone hurt? Come, let me heal you. Me, Elyon, what do you mean it doesn't hurt? Look, your leg is bleeding. Me, just a scratch. I don't think so. Come here, let me heal you. Me, no buts, come here. First aid. Okay. Next. Me, Echo, you are a girl, you should take better care of yourself. Me, first aid. Ah, all of you are so stubborn. Fine, have it your way. Mass first aid. William used mass first aid 3 times and healed the injuries of the goats. Although it was wasteful to use so much mana, he had no choice but to do it. The goats were still under the effect of their battle lust and were being very stubborn. Nana, Herman, Est, Isaac, and Ian watched as William nagged his goats with a fed-up expression. They found this scene quite funny, but none of them were laughing. They were still in a state of shock after witnessing William's unbelievable performance. Chapter 66. The Price for Freedom. Here you go, William, Herman said as he gave the young boy a grilled fish. Thank you, Uncle Herman, William replied as he gladly accepted the food that was offered to him. After the 3 mountain trolls left the clearing, the group decided to have lunch by the riverside. Est kept sneaking glances at William as the boy happily ate the grilled fish with relish. His eyes would often dart to the mithril collar that hung on the boy's neck from time to time. Naturally, William noticed his gaze, but he paid it no mind. Everyone in Lant had given him the same curious glances when they saw his slave collar for the first time. Contrary to William's expectations, no one made a big deal out of it in Lant. They just looked at him with interest and thought that the collar on his neck looked cool. Even the adults who had realized that it was a slave collar felt that it was just a prank by Celine in order to tone down William's mischievousness. Of course, this mentality was only restricted in the town of Lant. For people who were not in the know, they would just think that William was a pitiful half-elf that had been sold by slave traders. By the way, William, thank you for saving us earlier, Est said with a serious expression. I swear on my name that I will repay this favor. Just call me Will, William replied with a smile. Also, you don't need to repay me. I only did what I thought was right. I'm sure that if you were the one in my shoes, you would have, also, done the same. But, no buts. You don't need a reason to help someone in need. Herman watched the 2 children's exchange and nodded his head in appreciation. He was very fond of William and felt regret that he didn't have a grandson like him. Est could tell that William was firm in not accepting any kind of reward from saving his life, so he decided to just repay him in the future whether his savior liked it or not. For the time being, he wanted to know more about this shepherd who was giving him a mysterious, yet pleasant feeling. You said that you are heading towards the Holy Temple, right? Est inquired. What is your reason for going there? I'm going to the Holy Temple to meet a god. I want to pray to the gods so that they will protect Lant and keep the townspeople safe from harm. William made up an excuse in order to cover up his earlier slip of the tongue. Lant. Est glanced at Herman. His eyes were clearly asking, do you know anything about Lant? Herman closed his eyes and pondered for a bit. If I remember correctly, Lant is a small town located at the edge of the western region. Ah, are you perhaps related to that old bastard James? William grinned and nodded his head. My full name is William von Ainsworth. However, just call me Will, Uncle Herman. Ainsworth. Nana curled her lips. So, that shameless old man is your grandfather. Nana, do you know William's grandfather? Est asked. Of course. Nana nodded his head. He is the shameless bastard who took advantage of the chaos during the Battle of Windkeep Citadel. He and his companions were the ones who took down the Flood Dragon, Orobro, and the Amphisbaena. That old man even had the nerve to announce to everyone on the battlefield that the combined forces of the Helen Kingdom only won because he lured the Flood Dragon away and broke the monster army's chain of command. Right now, all the nobles in the capital are cursing his name. Even the king has a headache about how to best handle the aftermath of the battle because of his antics. Herman chuckled as he gazed at William. Your grandpa was a very sly fellow. When all the forces of the kingdom were dealing with the monster army, he lured away the 3 big bosses and managed to subdue them. Basically, he used the alliance as cannon fodders in order to reap the greatest profit in that battle. That grandfather of yours sure has guts. William had already heard the story from his grandfather because the old man really liked to brag about his heroics. Even so, William was still very impressed by how their small group was able to become the big winners of the war against the monster army. Ian snorted when he heard Nana's and Herman's comments about William's grandfather. Although he managed to reap the most benefits in that battle, his grandson still became a slave, Ian sneered. Isn't this what you call karma? Ian, don't be rude. Est reprimanded his retainer. William, I apologize for my retainer's words. He's just a straightforward person. It's fine. William sighed. I guess, you can also call it karma that this happened to me. My grandfather went bonkers when he found out that I became a slave after he returned to Lant. He knows that you became a slave. Isaac, Ian's twin, looked at William in surprise. Although no one was saying it out loud, they thought that William was one of those survivors of the Beast Tide calamity and had been sold to become a slave. Currently, there was an influx of slaves in the capital and most of them were survivors from the villages and towns that had been ravaged by the monster army. Initially, they thought that William was one of those survivors. William nodded his head. Then why didn't he buy you back? Est asked. He can't afford it. William caressed the mithril collar on his neck. A half-elf that is as handsome and talented as me is worth an astronomical price. Even the gains that Grandpa acquired during his short expedition was not enough to buy me back my freedom. Surely, you're exaggerating. Este challenged. Just how much did your grandpa need to pay in order to win back your freedom? Let's just say that even if the royal family of the Helen Kingdom emptied their entire treasury, they would still not be able to afford me, William replied with a smug expression. Even an emperor's ransom pales in comparison to my net worth. Est, Nana, Herman, Isaac. Can I punch your face? Ian asked. My hands are feeling very itchy right now. The boy looked at William in contempt. Although half-elf slaves were expensive, they were worth 10 to 15,000 gold coins at most. Even if you killed him, he wouldn't believe that the shepherd in front of him was worth an emperor's ransom. Your hands are feeling itchy. You must be suffering from athlete's foot, William sneered. My condolences. I said hands, not foot. You're a fool. Congratulations. There's no cure for stupidity. Why you? Isaac hurriedly grabbed his twin because the latter was about to have a go with William. Nana and Herman exchanged a glance and shook their heads helplessly. William rolled his eyes at the pretty boy in front of him. He didn't lie when he said that an emperor's ransom paled in comparison to the ingredients that Celine had lost during her experiment. Some of the items she had lost couldn't be bought even if you had the money. That was how rare and precious those ingredients were. He just didn't understand why the boy named Ian was targeting him out of the blue. Could it be that he is jealous because I am 3 times more handsome than him? William thought. Being handsome is really a sin. If Ian could only hear William's thoughts, he might have fought tooth and nail with his twin in order to get a chance to beat him up to a pulp. How about all of you? Why go this far to visit the Holy Temple? William asked after he finished eating. Although your clothes don't look expensive, the designs are very different from the ones commonly worn in the western region. Did all of you perhaps come from the capital? Nana's, Herman's, Ian's, and Isaac's gazes landed on Est. William noticed the subtle change in their expressions and looked expectantly at the delicate-looking boy with light brown hair and eyes. Our reasons for going to the temple are the same, Est answered. I am also going there to pray and ask the gods for their mercy. William gave a nod of understanding. Everyone visits the temple to pray to the gods, so Est's reason was not uncommon. After that, the group started to talk about random things which made the atmosphere more lively. Half an hour later, they left the clearing and continued their journey towards the holy temple. Chapter 67. Big Brother, are you happy with your current life? A day later, the group finally arrived at the Ellisfell Mountains where the Pantheon of Courage was located. They would need to travel for 4 more hours to arrive at the temple grounds that were located midway through the mountain. William, who was riding on Ella's back, took the lead in order to check if there were any hidden dangers along their path. The goats walked behind him, forming 2 lines, while being vigilant of their surroundings. I've never seen Angorian goats this disciplined in my life, Nana said with admiration. If this was a week ago and someone were to tell me that Angorian goats could fend off a mountain troll, I would definitely spit on their face. Are Angorian goats really this fierce? Est inquired. After seeing William battle with his herd, he was very tempted to rear Angorian goats back at their estate. Of course not, Nana answered firmly. I have seen many Angorian goats and all of them were as meek as sheep. The goats under William's care are quite abnormal, especially the one he calls Mama Ella. Strange. Est frowned. During the battle, that goat named Ella took on a different form. She was much larger and more intimidating than her current look. Nana, did you recognize the form she changed into during the battle? Yes. Nana nodded. If I'm not mistaken, she took the form of an Angorian war ibex. In the north of the kingdom, there is a tribe of warriors that live in the mountain. They are very fierce warriors and the mounts they ride on are the wild Angorian war ibexes that live in the great mountains of Corinter. Those war ibexes are more fierce, and more deadly than the warhorses bred for war. Trying to conquer their lands by force will only lead to countless deaths. This is why the king decided to let the mountain tribe retain their autonomy in exchange for an alliance. You can't imagine how surprised I was when I saw an Angorian war ibex in the western region. Is it perhaps an evolved creature? Ian asked. I heard that some creatures can change their appearance once they raise their rank. The possibility exists. No, I think this is the only possibility, Nana agreed. From every angle, Ella looks like an ordinary Angorian goat. It is very possible that. Nana's eyes widened when a realization struck her. She was not the only one. Est, too, thought of the same possibility and it made him look at Nana in disbelief. Don't tell me. Est swallowed hard. There's a possibility that those goats following William will also evolve into war ibexes. Ian and Isaac exchanged a glance. The battle that happened a day ago was still fresh in their minds. They could still remember how Ella fought the mountain troll on even grounds while the other goats attacked from the sides. The battle back then was a stalemate. However, if all of those goats were to evolve into war ibexes, then the mountain troll would have definitely perished then and there. Impossible, Ian immediately refuted. Very few creatures can evolve and those goats are clearly domesticated animals. I've never heard of an Angorian goat evolving into a war ibex. Maybe. Ella is a war ibex that was taken from the north. Since William's grandpa is a powerful person, getting one isn't out of the question. Isaac nodded at his brother's conclusion. Even Nana found this explanation very logical. If Angorian goats could easily evolve into war ibexes, then the Helen Kingdom would have already had a legion of war ibexes under its command. When we return to the estate, have someone visit Lant, Est ordered. We need to learn more about this town that has survived the beast tide. Understood. Nana nodded her head. Should I also dig into William's personal information? Yes, but be discreet when doing so. Also, I want you to find out more about William's master. The one whom he is bound to as a slave. Understood. 4 hours later, the carriage stopped before the gates of the Pantheon of Courage. The guardsmen guarding the gates told them to disembark because carriages were not allowed inside the temple grounds. William was worried that the guardsmen wouldn't allow his herd to enter. Fortunately, the guardsmen didn't seem to mind and even told the boy that the current head priestess that resided within the Pantheon of Courage was very fond of animals, especially goats. After doing some initial checks, the group was finally allowed to pass through the gates of the temple. It's bigger than I thought, William said as he gazed at the giant structure in front of him. Although the temple's design couldn't possibly compare to the buildings in the modern world, it still gave William a surreal feeling that made him look at it with admiration. Suddenly, the main entrance of the temple opened and several priestesses walked out to greet them. My name is Sarah and the high priestess had asked me to welcome all of you, guests that came from afar, Sarah said with a smile. All of you, except the goats, may follow me inside the temple. Est, and his entourage, followed Sarah as she walked back inside the temple. Another priestess walked towards William and offered to guide him to the stables where the goats could rest and feed while they waited for his return. Thank you, big sister, William bowed respectfully. I'll accept your offer. Such a cute child, the priestess smiled and lightly pinched William's cheeks. Follow me. When they arrived at the stables, William asked Ella to look after the goats while he went inside the temple. According to the priestess, that guided the red-head boy to the stables, William must follow protocol and perform a cleansing ritual before he would be allowed to go into the inner temple to converse with the gods. The priestess explained that it would take a whole day for the ritual to complete because it, also, involved a few hours of fasting. Mama Ella, take care of everyone for a day or two, William said as he hugged her neck. Make sure that they don't cause troubles for the priestesses of the temple. Me. All of you. Make sure to behave, okay? Me. After getting his herd's promise, William followed the priestess towards the temple. The priestess took him to a bathroom where he was supposed to properly clean his body. William took off his clothes and bathed properly. When he was finished, the priestess gave him a set of clean white robes to wear and guided him to the inner temple where he would begin his fasting. William sat on a prayer mat while looking at the marble statue of a beautiful knight holding a sword with both hands. Her long hair was tied in a ponytail, and her eyes were filled with mercy and compassion. William had only just kneeled on the prayer mat for 10 minutes when he suddenly felt very sleepy. He tried to fight off the drowsiness, but his eyes grew heavy with each passing second. I guess I'll take a nap first, William thought as he sleepily laid on the prayer mat. A minute later, the red-head boy was sound asleep. You foo. Big brother, if you don't wake up soon Lily is going to kiss you Tilda. Lily. William's hazy thoughts slowly cleared up as the familiar voice woke him up from his slumber. Big brother, you can keep on sleeping. I promise that Lily will make you feel really good Tilda. William opened his eyes just in time to see Lily about to give him a smooch on his lips. If not for the fact that he had seen her true form, he would have gladly accepted the kiss and might have even kissed her back in return. Unfortunately, what was seen couldn't be unseen and William hurriedly used his hands to block the lowly's lips from touching his own. Lily, behave yourself, William said as he pushed the lowly goddess face away from him. Che Tilda big brother is so mean, Lily pouted. Wait, Lily. William's eyes widened as he looked at the little goddess in front of him. What are you doing here? Where am I? William scanned his surroundings and found himself floating in space surrounded by countless stars. This is the place where gods talk to their believers, Lily explained. You can even say that this place is the boundary between life and death. I believe that you call this place limbo, back on Earth. A place where gods talk to their believers. William frowned. If that is the case then why is Gavin not here? Lily's pout increased by a notch and her fingers moved at lightning speed to pinch William's waist. William screamed like a little girl because Lily didn't hold back when she pinched him. It made the young boy realize that he wasn't dreaming and the lowly in front of his eyes was real. Big brother, you're so mean. Does this mean you don't want to see Lily? Lily narrowed her gaze. William could tell that if he gave her the wrong answer, another round of pinching would take place. Oh, of course, I wanted to see you, William replied. William wasn't lying when he answered this question. Although Lily's true form looked like an old midget, the lowly goddess had treated him well during his stay at the Temple of 10,000 Gods. If William were to look past her appearance, Lily was someone whom he could get along with really well. Really? You wanted to see Lily? Why yes. Yay. The lowly goddess jumped and hugged William's waist. She then looked up at William with upturned eyes looking all cute and lovable. Gavin will be here shortly. He is just handling a few matters with Issei and David, so they asked me to come and meet you here first. I see. William sighed and steeled his heart. Deep inside, he wanted to accept Lily regardless of how she really looked. He then took the initiative to pat the lowly goddess' head which made her close her eyes like a satisfied kitten. William continued to brush her hair for 2 minutes. A few seconds later, he heard a sigh coming from the lowly goddess. Big brother, you are really kind, Lily muttered as she lightly pushed William away. Lily, let's sit down first and have a chat. I'm sure that Big brother has a lot of questions to ask Lily. As soon as she said those words, a dining table appeared in front of William. Several dishes were laid on top of the table and all of them looked delicious. Let's talk as we eat, Big brother. Lily made a gesture for William to sit. William obediently accepted her invitation and sat on the chair facing Lily. Aren't you going to eat? Lily asked. Let's wait for the others to arrive, William replied. It would be more fun if we eat as a group. Lily gave William a sweet smile that made his heart skip a beat. Big brother, Lily wants to ask you a question. Go ahead. As long as it's not math, I'm confident that I can give you the right answer. Lily chuckled as she rested her chin on the back of her hand. She then looked at William with her adorable, bright, red eyes. She wanted to ask him the question that had been plaguing her mind ever since William had accidentally entered the red portal due to Truck Kun's interference in the cycle of reincarnation. Big brother, are you happy with your current life? Chapter 68. God points. Am I happy with my current life? William closed his eyes and looked back at the 10 years that he had lived in the town of Lant. Every day was filled with warmth and love that sometimes, he could feel his heart melting. His mama Ella would always be by his side to ensure that he would not suffer from any harm. His Aunt Anna would hum him songs while holding him in her loving embrace. His Uncle Mordred ensured that he was not lacking in food and clothes. His Aunt Helen would always find time to bake him desserts that he could bring to the valley while tending his goats. His big brother, Matthew, who loved reading books, would find time to read him stories about the southern continent. And his grandfather, James, always throws off his reminiscing and loved to brag about his adventures during his younger days. Those 10 years made William realize that even though this world didn't have the conveniences of the modern world, even though it didn't have electricity, television, radio, and the internet, he didn't find it boring. In fact, every night when he went to sleep, he would look forward to seeing the sun rise from the east. Because he knew that another day filled with warmth and happiness was waiting for him. I am very happy, William said softly. He then opened his eyes and looked at the adorable girl in front of him. Although I don't know what kind of life I might have lived if I entered the silver portal back then, the life I have now is very precious. I'm glad I was born in the world I am living in. I see, Lily replied with a beautiful smile. She could tell that William was being sincere and he was indeed very happy with the life he had now. That's good to hear. William scratched his cheek in embarrassment. Well, I'm glad that you are living a happy life in that world, William. Gavin materialized out of thin air. He sat beside Lily, facing William. As expected of my sworn brother. Issei appeared as well and sat beside Gavin. You're just like me when I was younger, David chuckled as he appeared beside Lily. The 4 gods who had formed a connection with William had all arrived. They were all looking at him with smiling faces as if they were up to no good. William didn't feel that something was off and greeted them all with a smile. It's been a while, Gavin, brother Issei, Sir David. Indeed. It has been a while, William. Gavin nodded his head. I'm glad you are doing well. Issei and David also nodded their heads in acknowledgement. Since everyone is already here, why don't we all eat first? Lily proposed. This feast was prepared for your arrival, so it would be a waste if you don't have your fill. She's right, Issei commented. Let's all eat. William nodded his head and everyone began to eat and drink. After the food had been cleared from the table, the gods started to ask William questions about his current life, which the boy answered as honestly as he could. That master of yours is not half bad, Issei said with a mischievous grin. Well, having an older woman as your lover is not a bad thing. They are more mature and you can lean on them when things get tough. Also, your master had developed in all the right places. If you know what I mean. William flashed Issei a knowing smile. The 2 perverts stared at each other as lewd grins appeared on their faces. Lily clicked her tongue in annoyance, but didn't say anything else. David played with his beard as he looked at William with admiration. Although I gave you my staff, I didn't think that you would really use it so soon. Sir David, I am very thankful for the gift that you gave me. If it wasn't for your staff, I might have re-entered the cycle of reincarnation at the age of 1 year old. I guess you can call this fate. When I first saw you, I was reminded of my younger days. What younger days? Lily sneered. When you were born as a god, you were already old. How can you shamelessly say that William reminded you of your younger days? David pretended not to hear Lily's spiteful words and continued to play with his beard. Your mama Ella loves you a lot. Be sure to take good care of her. I will, William promised. I consider her as my second mother. For me, Mama Ella is family. David had a satisfied expression as he nodded his head. He was the god of shepherds and William indirectly became one of his followers when he became a shepherd in the world he was born in. Naturally, he was also aware of Ella and the other goats whose fates were now tied to William. Gavin, do you already know why I came to see you? William asked. Of course I know, Gavin replied. It's just that, I didn't expect you to see me this early. That wolf tide sure brought you a lot of benefits. Gavin chuckled as he patted William's shoulder. Okay, let's now get down to business. Gavin's expression became serious as he crossed his arms over his chest. In order for your experience limiter to ascend to the next level, you need to finish a quest. A quest? William inquired. What kind of quest? Like those quests in the games I played back on Earth. Something like that. Gavin nodded his head. Once you clear this quest, another special feature of the CPU core will be unlocked. Special feature? Yes. You will start receiving special quests that will give you points called God points. God points. William tilted his head in confusion. Lily coughed lightly as she continued Gavin's explanation. God points are points that you can use to purchase items in the God shop. Our believers, who have received our blessings, are able to access this shop and buy items that can only be found in the God realm. All items in the God shop are made by the gods themselves, Issei said with a smile. Some of them are expensive, while others are very expensive. By the way, I'll give you a 50% discount on the first 3 items that you buy from my shop. Big brother, what kind of items do you sell in your shop? Aphrodisiacs, candles, whips, bondage outfits, bunny costumes, and many more exciting items that will make your nightlife extra exciting. William swallowed hard as he held Issei's hands. Do you also have sailor costumes? You bet I do, Issei answered with a lewd grin. We even have shrine maiden outfits. The two perverts clasped their hands together, which made the other gods look at them in contempt. Gavin cleared his throat in order to catch William's attention to continue his explanation. Listen, William, I will now tell you the contents of your quest, Gavin said. Right now, you are in the Pantheon of Courage. One of our colleagues has asked for assistance, and it just so happens that you are also present in her temple. Because of this, I decided that your quest would be to help her follower clear a trial. You will find more information when your soul returns to your world. Do you have any other questions? Will I be able to see you guys again? William asked. When you reach your next bottleneck, you can come and find us again, Lily answered with a smile. Big brother, even if you miss Lily, you shouldn't push yourself too hard. Take things one step at a time. We will have our reunion in good time. Don't worry, brother, Issei commented. We will also be watching over you from time to time. Even if you can't see us, we can definitely see you. That's right. David nodded his head. Of course, we can't really interfere and help you when you encounter difficulties. Gods aren't allowed to interfere with the material world. However, we can offer you help in other ways. The important thing is for you to live a life worth living, Gavin said. Although getting strong is a must, you must not ignore the world around you. Life is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for, it is a thing to be achieved. You will make a lot of choices in life. Some of them may not lead to the ending that you envisioned, but regardless of your choice, you must see them through to the end. The same can be said for the special quests that will give you God points. If you feel that the quest is absurd, or goes against your morals, you don't have to do it. I can skip special quests? William asked. Yes. Doing the special quests are not compulsory, Gavin answered while sneaking glances at Lily and Issei. Only do the things that you think are worth doing. Understood. William nodded his head. Issei and Lily both had mischievous smiles on their faces. Big brother, let's see if you can resist the special quests that I will give you, Tilda. Don't worry, brother. Your big brother will ensure that you interact with the ladies as often as possible. The two gods shared a knowing glance at each other before returning their attention to William. What William didn't know was that the ones who would be giving out the special quests were none other than the gods themselves. Chapter 69. May the odds be in your favor. Est, my devout follower, are you prepared? A strong and steady feminine voice asked. Yes, my lady Astrid, Est replied as he knelt on one knee like a knight. This trial will be difficult, so I will allow you to bring a few helpers with you, Astrid, the goddess of female knights, said with a gentle gaze. Aside from your 2 retainers, another helper will be waiting for you on the trial grounds. Thank you for your magnanimity, my lady. The goddess nodded her head as she raised the sword in her hand. She then lightly tapped Est's shoulders with the sword blade before returning it to its sheath. Clear this trial, and I will fulfill the promise I made to your family many years before you were born, Astrid promised. However, if you fail, then the promise I made will become null and void. Do I make myself clear? Yes, my lady, Est answered. I will not fail you. I only look at the results, Est, not the process. I understand. It's time for you to return, Astrid ordered. May the odds be in your favor. Dash. When Est opened his eyes, he found himself in the sacred room of the inner temple. This room was dedicated to the devout followers of the goddess Astrid. As Est shakily stood up from the prayer mat, the door of the sacred room opened and the high priestess entered followed by 2 attendants. Have you received the word of Her Excellency? The high priestess asked. Yes, Est replied. Good. Is there anything else that we can do to help you? I need to go to the trial grounds. Can I ask for you to send someone to guide me? It is but a trivial thing, the high priestess answered. My 2 attendants will take you there after you have your breakfast. Your retainers are already waiting for you in the dining area. Thank you. It is my duty. There is no need for thanks. Est was led by the 2 attendants to the next room to change clothes. As he wore his clothes, the young boy thought about the discussion he had with the goddess Astrid. The goddess had explicitly told him that the trial was very hard. He was supposed to clear it when he was a bit older, but circumstances didn't allow the goddess to wait for him to grow up. The beast tide had thrown everything into disarray, and something must be done in order to re-establish the protection of the kingdom. For that, Est needed to clear the trial in order for the goddess Astrid to bestow her blessing on the Helen kingdom. This was also why failure was not an option. His father and mother had given him this mission, and Est was duty-bound to see it through. Father, mother, I will do my best, Est thought. No matter what it takes, I will succeed. Dash. Young master, are you sure that Mr. Herman and Ms. Nana cannot help us in clearing the trial? Isaac asked. There is an age limit for the trial ground, Est replied. Anyone above the age of 15 will be barred from entry. You can count on us, young master, Ian pledged. We will help you clear this trial with everything we have. Est was 10 years old, while Isaac and Ian were both 11 years old. The twins had been trained from a young age to become Est's retainers and help him unconditionally. Thank you, Est said with a smile. I'm counting on both of you. Yes, young master. The 3 walked towards a cave that would lead them to the trial grounds. After 10 minutes of walking, they exited the cave and found themselves in what seemed to be a garden filled with colorful flowers. An imposing gate made of bronze stood 100 meters away from them. It was over 10 meters tall and several runes were etched on its surface. Est's, Isaac's, and Ian's gazes landed on the herd of goats that was currently standing right in front of the bronze gate. All of them were looking up at it with determination. It was as if they were soldiers that were about to go to war for their motherland. A familiar boy with red hair sat on the back of the biggest goat among the herd. He was carrying a wooden staff in his hand and a carefree smile hung on his face. William waved at the 3 boys as he watched them walk in his direction. What are you doing here? Ian snorted. This place is off limits to those who are not affiliated with the Pantheon of Courage. Say, are you a girl? William asked. Why are you always irate? Are you perhaps having your period right now? You're the one having a period. Ian shot back with anger. His face was dyed a deep shade of red as he glared hatefully at William. I don't understand why you're always butting heads with me. William shrugged. Wait, don't tell me you've fallen in love with me. Sorry, but I don't swing that way. Black lines appeared on Ian's face as he stepped forward with the intention of bashing in William's smug expression. Fortunately, Isaac and Est held him on both sides, which prevented him from having a fight with the smug shepherd in front of him. William, what are you doing here? Est inquired. Although he already knew the answer, he still decided to ask this question for confirmation. I came here because my patron god told me to help someone clear a trial, William answered. Are you perhaps the one taking the trial? Yes. Est nodded. Are you really here to help me clear the trial? Yes. However, since someone insulted me, I'm no longer in the mood to help, William replied. We don't need your help. Ian interjected. My cis brother and I will be enough to help the young master clear this trial. Is that so? William raised an eyebrow. I heard that this trial is very hard. If you really don't need my help, then I won't force it. Besides, I don't want to be on the same team with a boy that is having his period. Ian was about to reply to William's remark when he felt Est's gaze land on her. The gaze made him shudder and the words that he was about to say became stuck in his throat. Will, this trial is important to me, Est stated. I would be very happy if you were to help me clear it. Will it be fine if I formally commission you to help me clear this quest? I will prepare sufficient payment once we successfully clear the trial. Sure. William readily agreed. He wouldn't reject Est's offer because those were just freebies for him. Even though Ian was making things difficult for him, he had no intention of allowing Est to start the trial on his own. This trial was also important to him, because it was the quest that Gavin had given him in order to break through his bottleneck. William was more than willing to turn a blind eye to the annoying Ian who seemed to be his mortal enemy in his past life. Is everyone ready? William asked. Me. The goats replied in unison. Wait, can the goats enter the trial grounds, too? Est asked. He looked at the goats in a hopeful manner. During the battle, the goats showed amazing battle prowess, and having them inside the trial would definitely raise their chances of success. There's only one way to find out, William grinned. He then tapped the bronze gate with his wooden staff. The door trembled for a few seconds before opening widely. A silver portal appeared at the center of the gate, which reminded William of the portals in the Cycle of Reincarnation. After you, William made a gesture for Est to enter first. I'll see you on the other side, Est said as he entered the portal. Isaac and Ian entered the portal as well. The latter didn't forget to give William a hateful glare before passing through the portal. What's with him? William frowned. He then shook his head helplessly as he lightly caressed his mama Ella, urging her to enter the portal. Soon William and the rest of his herd entered the portal. Deep inside, William was feeling excited. He was very curious about what kind of trial he would be facing. He was also looking forward to the completion of the trial, so that he could check out the items in the god shop. According to Gavin, there were several items for sale in the shop that would allow him to acquire very rare job classes. With such an incentive, William was pumped up to finish the quest as fast as possible. Little did he know that the trial in the sacred grounds was not only prepared for Est, but for him as well. Chapter 70. Parting of Ways. They found themselves at the entrance of an eerie forest where Est and the twins were waiting for them. With just a glance, William could tell that the forest was bad news. Dash. Ding. Closing square bracket. You have accepted the quest. Trial of Courage. Quest. Trial of Courage. Quest objective. Escort Est to the altar of courage located at the center of the forest. Closing square bracket. Secondary objective. Est must survive. Quest will automatically fail once Est or the host dies. Closing square bracket. Quest reward. Host's second transcendence phase will be unlocked. Closing square bracket. Dash. What an ominous sounding mission, William sighed as he finished reading the contents of the quest. He then returned his attention to the forest and observed it more closely. The air smelled of decay and rot, while the towering trees blocked out the sunlight. There was not a path to follow. Meaning, they would have to traverse the forest without any form of navigation. Of course, this doesn't apply to William because he had the system with him. Its mapping function sprang to life as it displayed William's current location on the map. According to his estimate, the forest extends for at least 3 miles in all directions. Fortunately, William saw a blinking gold dot at the center of the map. The red-head boy assumed that this was the place where they needed to go in order to clear the trial. There were also several ominous purple dots that were moving on the map, which gave William a sense of mortal danger. I guess these purple dots are off limits, William thought. They are probably monsters belonging to the centennial or millennial beast categories. Over 30 purple dots were scattered around the map, and they were all encircling the gold dot which William labeled as their quest objective. Est, Ian, and Isaac thought that William was still in a daze because he was looking at the space in front of him. Ian didn't want to approach him because he felt like beating him up, while Isaac didn't want to offend his brother, so he remained by his side. As for Est, he was scanning the surroundings with a frown. He was quite sensitive to danger, and he could feel the telltale signs that the eerie forest housed many strong entities that could potentially kill them. Est, come here for a moment, William said as he motioned for the young master to come closer. Yes, Est replied as he stopped a meter away from William. Did you get any information about this place from the High Priestess? No. But, something is calling out to me from inside the forest. I believe that it is the place I have to go. Can you tell me which direction that feeling is coming from? William inquired. Est closed his eyes and extended his senses outwards. He then pointed in the direction where the strong attraction was coming from. William nodded his head because Est had just confirmed his suspicion. The direction he was pointing at was exactly the place where the blinking gold dot was located. Okay, listen up. Let's set some rules first before we enter the forest, William said with a serious expression. I want to appoint myself as the leader of this expedition. Everyone must follow my order no matter how unreasonable it is. And why should we follow you? Ian snorted. We only obey the young master. That's right. Isaac supported his twin. We only follow the young master's order. William looked at Est and waited for his decision. He knew that Ian would definitely reject his proposal, and he was also expecting that Isaac would support his brother. However, they were not the ones calling the shots on this mission. As long as Est nodded his head, then the twins had no choice but to follow his orders. William, since you accepted this commission, that means that I am your employer. Est raised his head to look at the shepherd who was mounted on top of the Angorian goat. The employer has the right to order their subordinates during a mission. Est was a proud person. He had gotten used to the fact that everyone obeyed his every word. He thought that since William had decided to become part of his group, the shepherd would follow his orders. Who would have thought that the first thing that he would do was to take the role of the leader and ask them to follow his orders? This was something that Est wouldn't accept so easily. As that's so, William answered in a casual manner. Sorry, I didn't come here to play house with the three of you. If you want to do it your way, then you can do it alone. Why you? Are you disobeying me? For the first time in his life, Est felt that his authority was being challenged. Disobeying you? William snorted. Don't treat me as one of your servants. I have only one master, and it's not you. Est gritted his teeth as he clenched his teeth in anger. So, you finally showed your true colors. Ian spat on the ground. I knew that you were a superficial person the moment I saw you. I guess I was right. William lazily laid down on Ella's back and propped his head on the palm of his hand. He then gave Ian a sidelong glance before giving a retort. The first time I saw you, I knew that you were a little goblin in disguise. I guess I was right. Even your breath smells bad. Why you? Ian unsheathed his short sword and was about to charge at William when the Angorian goats stepped forward and formed a battle formation. Their sharp and pointy horns were aimed outwards. Clearly, they would not hesitate to attack Ian if he moved to hurt their master, William. Even Ella changed her form into the Angorian war ibex. Her intimidating aura pressed down on the young boy and made him stop in his tracks. Me. Ella bleated. The color of her horns and hooves changed to mithril blue. Her gaze locked on Ian. Est could easily tell that the war ibex's gaze was not friendly. He immediately made a gesture for Ian to hold his ground and not provoke the goats any further. The three children had to admit that even if they joined forces, they would not be a match against Ella and the Angorian goats by her side. Not to mention, William was also a magician. Although they didn't know why a magician, like him, was acting like a shepherd, they didn't doubt his fighting ability. There's no need to fight against each other, Est said after regaining his composure. We are not enemies. My condition remains the same, William commented in a lazy tone. Either I lead this group or we part ways here. There's no room for negotiations. Est knew that William had already made his stance and wouldn't change his mind. Right now, he was in a dilemma. Either they carried out the trial with just the three of them or let William have his way. If he chose to clear the trial with just the three of them, the difficulty would surely increase. Also, he didn't know what kind of dangers he would be facing inside the forest. There was safety in numbers and the goats held an advantage because of their teamwork. However, he was still struggling deep inside because he didn't like someone forcefully taking over his authority. In the end, he made a decision as he made a gesture for Ian and Isaac to stand by his side. We will part our ways here, Est stated in a firm manner. I will not forget that you have saved my life from the mountain troll. This favor, I will definitely repay in the future. Without waiting for his reply, he turned around and walked into the forest. Isaac and Ian hurried to catch up behind him. William watched the three go with a calm expression. However, deep within his heart, he was feeling anxious. Fine, let's see what the three of you can do, William mused. I'd like to see how far the three of you can go without my help. William watched as the three green dots that represented Est and his lackeys entered the forest. He was very curious about what kind of abilities the three of them possessed. They weren't able to show it earlier when he was fighting against the mountain troll. The red-head boy deemed that it was best to know the extent of their battle capabilities, so that he could make the right decisions if he was to work together with them. Chapter 71. Reaching a compromise. Isaac and Ian used their short swords to cut the vegetation to create a path. They were paying extra attention to their surroundings as they moved with caution. Est had a frown on his face as he walked in the rear of their formation. They had already been walking for an hour, and they still hadn't encountered a living beast within the dark forest. He couldn't even hear the sounds of birds or the buzzing of the insects. The forest seemed to be devoid of life, but it only made him more wary. Suddenly, he heard some snapping noises around them. Isaac and Ian immediately rushed to his side and formed a protective perimeter. It was at that moment when something sprouted out of the ground and grabbed hold of Isaac's ankle. The boy immediately looked down and saw a hand made up of bones holding his ankle in a firm grip. Ian immediately stomped on the hand, crushing it to pieces and freeing his twin in the process. To his dismay, more hands sprang up from the ground and latched onto them. Ha! Est, Ian, and Isaac released a shout and a powerful shockwave blew the skeleton arms off their bodies. Climb the tree, hurry! Est ordered. The three children hurriedly ran towards the nearest tree and climbed as high as they could. Not long after their climb, the ground started to shake. An earthquake? Isaac asked. No, Est replied. This is not an earthquake. It's something worse. Ian's face paled as he watched hundreds of skeleton warriors rise up from the ground. Some of them were wearing light armors and carrying steel weapons in their hands. The sounds of bones snapping reverberated in the forest as more skeletons rose up from the ground. The forest that was once devoid of life was now teeming with the undead. Dash. William clicked his tongue as he watched the event that appeared in front of his eyes. He was currently on top of a tree and watching the three children from afar. Due to his skill eagle eyes and vulture eyes, he was able to see up to 1,100 meters in front of him. Dash. Eagle's eyes, 5/5. Passive. Able to see farther than regular eyesight. Increase vision plus 100 meters. Dexterity plus 10. Vulture eyes, 5/5. 10 mana points. Lock onto your target from a great distance. Increase vision plus 1,000 meters. Skill duration. 20 minutes. Dash. He could clearly see over 1,000 skeletons encircling the tree where the three children were perched. The bad news was that the number of skeletons was still rising at an alarming rate. Should I help them? William thought. Although he couldn't fight off the skeletons, he could easily help Est and the twins to break free from the encirclement. While William was still pondering on what to do, Est and the twins had already made their move. Why are they? OFCK. The bastards are headed in my direction. William cursed internally. OSH*T. The skeletons are also headed in my direction. William's eyes widened in shock when he saw the sudden turn of events. His eyes unconsciously darted to Ian's no-good face. The red-head boy could see the devilish smirk plastered on the hateful boy's face, which made his liver itch. I'm itching to beat the crap out of this bastard. William gnashed his teeth as he watched the three children jump from tree to tree while heading in his direction. Their movements were quite fast and, within a minute, they landed on the tree opposite of William's. William ignored the three children and focused his attention on the skeleton army. He gauged that it would still take the skeleton army 15 minutes to arrive at their location. That was more than enough time to have a chat. Fancy meeting you here, Ian said with a sneer. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue. Fancy meeting you here, William replied with contempt. What's the matter? Did you come here to beg this sir to help you? Ian's face darkened, but he couldn't find any words to refute William's claim. Earlier, he had sneakily used his ability to mark William by using his anger as a medium. As long as his anger for the boy remained, he would be able to locate him wherever he was. This was an ability he had awakened a few years ago. It was an ability meant to track his enemies, giving them no place to escape his pursuit. Never in his wildest dreams did he think that he would have to use his ability to seek the help of the person whom he hated the most. William leaned against the tree bark in a carefree manner. He was the one who had the advantage in this negotiation, and he would be a fool to not use it to his advantage. An internal struggle was currently happening inside Est's mind. Although they did manage to escape the skeleton's pursuit, it was only a matter of time before they caught up to them. The burst of power they had displayed a while ago had a time limit and they couldn't keep their sword aura active for very long. Even now, they only had 5 more minutes before it lost its effect. Est knew that with every minute that passed, the danger they would face would grow exponentially. With a sigh of resignation, he looked at the carefree shepherd in front of him and admitted defeat. If he wanted to succeed, then he had no choice but to compromise. It was at that moment when he remembered the goddess' words back in the temple. I only look at the results, Est, not the process. For the first time in his life, Est was forced to take a step back and swallow his pride. He even had to compromise and lower his head to someone who was not his equal. Since he had made his decision, he no longer hesitated and took the initiative to ask for William's help. I agree with your condition, Est said. Please, lend us your strength. I need to clear this quest no matter what. The fate of the entire. A hand covered Est's lips as Isaac stood beside him. I'm sorry, young master, Isaac whispered. Please forgive me for my transgression, but we can't let anyone know about our mission. This was the warning that the oracle gave us before we left the capital. Est's eyes widened in shock as he realized that he almost told William the reason for undergoing the trial. The sudden attack of the skeletons had clouded his mind and made him lose a bit of his composure. After taking a few deep breaths to compose himself, he tapped Isaac's hands to assure him that he was now in control of his emotions. Isaac removed his hand from Est's lips and bowed his head in apology. "You are not at fault," Est said as he addressed Isaac. "I promise that I will be more careful in the future. As long as the young master understands, this servant is willing to be punished. There will be no punishment. Just focus on the task at hand." "Yes, young master." William watched the exchange with an amused expression. He didn't really want to pry, and he was really not interested in knowing more about their mission. All he cared about was the completion of the trial so his own mission would be completed. "Let's go," William ordered as he jumped towards another tree. The three children followed behind him and they returned to the outskirts of the forest where Ella and the rest of the goats were waiting for them. It might have taken some time, but William had finally accomplished his goal to take command of this party. Even the annoying Ian kept his mouth shut and simply followed behind him. Half an hour later, a herd of goats darted across the forest floor. The skeleton army had been long left behind in their dust. William kept his attention on the map as he gave minute orders to the goats. Est, Isaac, and Ian were currently riding Oslon, Kronos, and Echo. After careful consideration, William decided to conserve the three children's fighting strength. This would help them deal with any unexpected surprises that they might meet along the way. "Stop," William ordered, and the goats immediately stopped in their tracks. They were only 2,000 meters away from the golden blinking dot on the map, but they couldn't advance any further. Regardless of what path they chose, they would be forced to fight with one of the 5 purple dots guarding each of the 5 entrances that led to their destination. William had already used his ability to look ahead of them and found no other way forward, except for a direct confrontation. Chapter 72. Challenge of Courage Part 1. A giant purple orb of light blocked the only path leading to the center of the forest. William had tried to find other routes, but a powerful barrier blocked their way. After repeated tries, it dawned on them that the only way to advance was to confront the purple orb that was blocking their path. "Prepare for battle," William ordered as he raised his staff. Immediately after his announcement, a notification appeared in front of his eyes. Dash. Ding. Closing square bracket. Are you going to participate in the Challenge of Courage? Closing square bracket. Yes, no. Dash. William took a deep breath before choosing yes. After choosing his answer, the giant purple orb in front of them expanded. It engulfed William, Ella, Est, Ian, and Isaac along with the rest of the goats. A few seconds later, they found themselves on what seemed to be an open plain. Nothing could be seen for miles, except for the vast grassland. However, instead of calming the children, it only made them raise their guards even more. As they eyed their surroundings, William noticed that his herd was feeling restless. The ears of the goats would perk up every now and then as if they were picking up sounds that the humans couldn't hear. Suddenly, Ella broke away from the formation and charged at something. Since William was mounted on her back, he had no choice but to be dragged along with her. "Me," Ella bleated. "Me. Something is in front of us." William asked. "Me," Ella answered. "Me. Monsters. And there is more than one of them." William looked around anxiously, but he couldn't see anything. "Me." Ella stomped her front hooves on the ground and delivered a powerful kick behind her. A loud shriek was heard as something that resembled a lizard flew several meters off the ground due to Ella's powerful kick. William observed the monster in front of him as it angrily hissed at Ella after standing up. The monster, that looked like a cross between a chameleon and a monitor lizard, was at least 6 meters long. Its body was covered in dark green scales, and its blood-red eyes were currently looking at Ella with hatred. Its webbed feet had 4 razor-sharp claws and they glinted in the sunlight like a sharp blade. The red-head boy had no idea what it was, so he immediately used his appraisal skill to get a better understanding of an enemy that he was seeing for the first time in his life. Dash. Gazmirage. Chameleon-type beast. Threat level C. Known as the hidden killer of the grasslands. This chameleon, who lives in the eastern plains of the southern continent, is known for its lethal ambushes. Its main weapon is its long tongue that extends up to 30 meters and can easily shatter a boulder in one strike. During battle, it coats its claws with poison that is potent enough to kill a man within 5 minutes. Its special ability is stealth. A.N. The rankings for the threat levels are E, D, C, B, A, S, SS, SSR, and Calamity. Centennial beasts are rank S, millennial beasts are rank SS, and myriad beasts are ranked as SSR. Calamity classes are those beasts who are half a step away or have already stepped on the ranks of demigods. As William absorbed the information in his head, he noticed that the Gazmirage's front right leg was bent at an unnatural angle. It seemed that it was the part of its body that received the full brunt of Ella's kick. The monster hissed and its long tongue shot out towards William and Ella like a deadly whip. Ella evaded the attack with ease. However, a 6-meter-long gash, that was a meter deep, appeared in the ground that they were standing at just a few seconds ago. It showed William just how powerful the attack was, and it made him very wary of the Gazmirage's battle prowess. Seeing that it failed to kill its targets, the pissed-off Gazmirage's tongue lashed out a barrage of attacks in rapid succession. Even with Ella's agility, she was having trouble dodging the consecutive blows of the tongue that seemed to have a life of its own. Behind you. William heard Est's warning, and immediately turned his head to look at his back. There he saw 4 more lethal tongues that were currently heading in their direction. Ice wall. 4 layers of ice wall appeared behind William's back as he attempted to shield himself and Ella from the unexpected sneak attack. The 4 tongues that were powerful enough to break boulders shattered 3 layers of the ice wall before stopping at the 4th one. Mama. Me. Ella quickly took that opportunity to make her escape and return to where Est and the others were. Surprisingly, the monsters didn't make any follow-up attacks on William and Ella as they retreated towards their group. The injured Gazmirage flicked its tongue before using its stealth ability. It was not in a hurry to have its revenge because its comrades were slowly forming a tight encirclement in order to trap their prey. Also, their leader was already headed in their direction. Once it arrived, their enemy's chances of winning was nil. What are we going to do? Est asked as he warily looked around their surroundings. We can't fight what we can't see. What kind of monster was it? Isaac asked. I've never heard or seen something like this before. Its name is Gazmirage. Threat level C, William explained. Its main weapon is its tongue that extends up to 30 meters. Its claws also contain poison that can paralyze its prey. Make sure to avoid it at all costs. Do you know their weakness? Ian asked. Also, how did you know about this creature? My master is a walking monster encyclopedia, William lied with a straight face. I heard her talking about this monster in passing. This monster thrives within the eastern plains of the southern continent. As for their weakness, they don't have any. Monster encyclopedia. Est asked. What's that? In short, she knows a lot about monsters, William answered in an awkward manner. I see. Est nodded his head. Although he had a feeling that William wasn't telling him the truth, he knew that now was not the time to ask such questions. Do you have a plan in mind? Since he had already recognized him as the leader of the party, he decided to observe whether he really had the capabilities to lead them. There is a way, but, William looked at the 3 children with reluctance. You might not like it. What do you mean that we might not like it? Ian asked in a challenging tone. William didn't answer Ian's question. Instead, he glanced at the grasslands around them. If possible, he didn't want to use this ability because his master had repeatedly warned him not to use it in public. Remember this, William, Celine said with a serious expression. No matter how good or noble your intentions are, human prejudice is something that you must consider when using this power. Only use it as a last resort. While he was still having an internal debate whether he should use his power or not, the ground started to shake. A hulking giant that was at least 40 meters tall appeared in their vision. It had red skin and a single horn jutted out of its head. In its hand was a giant black steel hammer that was as dark as the night. The most notable feature of this monster was its single, large, red eye that seemed to pierce through their souls. The hairs on William's neck stood on end as he gazed upon the towering threat in front of him. The feeling that the monster gave him was similar to the Strathmore thunder-horned wolf and golden-scaled crocodile that he had faced many months ago. It was a presence that William could never hope to defeat with his current level of power. Chapter 73. Challenge of Courage Part 2. Terror Hand. Giant Race. Threat Level SS, Millennial Beast. Long ago, it was said that a race of Cyclops broke free from the control of the gods and started to slaughter everything in existence. They had incredible strength that was able to overpower most of the other giant races, which allowed them to roam unhindered for many years. The single eye on their head is able to shoot out a concentrated beam of light that is able to destroy fortress walls. They are able to control the metal element to a certain extent, which gives them the ability to make their bodies as hard as steel. They are weak against the holy element. Instead of hope, William found despair as he read the information of Terrorhand. Although it had a weakness, he didn't have any job classes in his possession with the holy element. His only hope was his companions, so he decided to ask if any of them could wield the power to slay the millennial beast in front of them. The name of this monster is Terrorhand, William said as he tried to suppress the despair in his voice. It is a millennial beast and its only weakness is the holy element. Do any of you possess the holy element? Isaac and Ian shook their heads before looking at their young master. Est bit his lip before reluctantly nodding his head. I don't have the power to use holy spells, but I do have a weapon that is imbued by the holy element. The handsome boy waved his hand and a sword appeared in front of him. The plain-looking sword didn't look special. In fact, it looked so normal that William was finding it hard to believe that it was imbued with the holy element. Because of his doubts, he decided to use his appraisal skill on the sword. Rhapsody, the sword of eternal glory. The sword that was wielded by the hero Altera who protected the humans during the War of the Darkness. Its power will depend upon the belief of its user. The stronger their belief, the more powerful the sword becomes. Imbued with the holy element. This sword is indestructible, can only be wielded by the devout followers of the goddess Astrid. William had a complicated look on his face as he read the information of the sword. Although the word, indestructible, and, imbued with the holy element, caught his eye, he was not feeling optimistic about their chances. Aside from Terrorhand, there were 6 Gazmirages that were currently hiding using their stealth ability. William's map had been disabled, so he couldn't detect their locations. With a millennial beast and 6 invisible threats, William felt that this challenge was simply impossible to clear. I guess I have no choice, William thought as he clenched his fist. This was a battle of life and death, so he couldn't be choosy with the method that was available to him. Since it was impossible for him to beat the Terrorhand, he would devote himself to the supporting role to ensure that Est would be able to deliver the finishing blow to the millennial beast. Est, do you have the confidence to beat that thing? William asked. No. Est shook his head. Beating it is impossible. He was feeling faint-hearted, as he gripped the sword in his hand. When the goddess mentioned that the trial would be hard, he thought that he would still be able to clear it using the sacred sword that the goddess had passed unto him. Est realized how naive he was. Would a challenge that affected the fate of a kingdom be easy? Of course not. He was starting to despair. Fear was slowly gripping his heart and it was making it hard for him to breathe. Est felt his hand becoming clammy as cold sweat streamed down the side of his face. As he was about to lose all hope, a pair of rough hands pressed down on his shoulders. Est raised his head and saw a pair of bright green eyes looking straight at him. No matter how strong the enemy is, a hero can't choose their opponent, William said in a firm manner. This is why they are called heroes. But, I'm not a hero, Est replied. I was not born a hero. Heroes are not born, they are made, William stated. A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. His confident voice pierced through Est's heart, warding off the fear that had almost rendered him paralyzed. Est could also feel warmth spreading from the palms of William's hands that were currently pressing on his shoulders. Pep talk is over, William said as he gazed at the adversary that he had to face. His fearless gaze awed Isaac and even Ian, who was always skeptical about William, had to admit that the boy's current expression looked cool. Bestow. Ice armor. Leader of the herd. William buffed his herd and applied ice armor to everyone including Est and the twins. He then asked the system to switch his sub-class from the Ice Wizard to Dark Mage. Right now, his ice magic could make little difference against their enemies, so he decided to get serious. William, the mithril collar that I gave you is special, Celine said as he patted the boy's head. It has a special function that you can use once every 5 years. The price of using it is very steep. However, if you have to choose between paying the price and dying, you should just pay the price and use it. After all, only when you are alive will you be able to accomplish your goals in life. The passcode to activate the collar's ability is William touched the mithril collar on his neck and said, Rule Breaker. The collar glowed radiant blue as William felt a surge of power washing over his body. This was a forbidden spell that Celine had taught him to preserve his life before he left the village to visit the Holy Temple. William didn't know that Celine had a premonition that William would encounter extreme danger during his journey. Because of this, she decided to impart the collar's secret in order to give him a chance of survival. Tendrils of darkness snaked around William's body as the mithril collar executed its special function. This is dark magic. Isaac gasped. Ian's eyes widened in surprise before his face contorted to an expression of scorn. Est stared at the red-head boy who was slowly being enveloped by darkness. To his surprise, he didn't feel any negative feelings towards William. In fact, Est was feeling a sense of peace and security coming from him. Est understood that William was taking a risk by showing them this side of himself. The sword in his hand pulsed with power and the words of the goddess whispered in his ears. I only look at the results, Est, not the process. Lady Astrid, I think I now understand what you are trying to tell me, Est thought as he firmly gripped the sword in his hand. Since you chose him to be my companion in this trial, I will also put my trust in him. Dash. Ding. Closing square bracket. The special function of the Collar of Wisteria had successfully activated. Closing square bracket. Dark Mage job class have been forcefully upgraded to a prestige class. Acquired prestige class. Prince of Darkness. This job class is temporary and will only last for 2 hours. Closing square bracket. Dash. William sighed as the power inside his body stabilized. This was the first time he felt so powerful. Even so, he understood that he wouldn't be able to beat the millennial beast with his current strength. However, beating a centennial beast poses no problem at all. Ethereal vision. The corner of William's lips curled up into a smirk as the color of his eyes changed into a golden color. The hiding gasmirages were laid bare before his eyes and he decided to deal with them first before fighting off against the millennial beast. Glorious darkness, my redeemer, I need you now in my time of need. Guide my hand so I might conquer your foes. Punish the fools who have forgotten your name, and doom them all to eternal darkness. Darkness breaker. Over a dozen dark beams shot out from the sky and crisscrossed across the plains. The hiding monsters let out a shriek as their world descended into darkness. Dark mists oozed out of their eyes as their bodies rolled on the ground in pain. Mama Ella, I'll leave the small fries to you, William ordered. Est, and your 2 sidekicks, we are going to deal with the terror hand. I'm going to say this now, but none of you are allowed to die. Do I make myself clear? Me. Understood. Est nodded his head. Okay. Isaac replied with a determined expression. I'll follow you just this once. Ian decided to focus on the task at hand for the time being. Even though he disliked William, there was no way he would allow his young master to face the Cyclops on his own. Chapter 74. Someone who was favored by the gods. With a mighty roar, the battle officially began. Terrorhand was indeed a very formidable opponent. None of the children's attacks were dealing any damage to its body. Even Est's sword, Rhapsody, could at most open superficial wounds that would regenerate in an instant. Est, jump back, William ordered. Este didn't think twice and immediately obeyed William's order. A black whip made up of dark magic wrapped up around his waist. With a tug of William's hand, Est was pulled away from his location just in time to evade the red beam of light that shot out from the Cyclops' eye. The ground exploded, sending burning rocks in all directions. Isaac and Ian, who were near the area of explosion, distanced themselves while evading the dangerous projectiles that were flying all around them. We can't continue like this, William said as Est landed beside him. We need to end him in one strike. But how? Est asked. Suddenly, a realization struck him. Don't tell me. Yes. William raised his head and looked at the Cyclops, only eye that was looking at them in disdain. We need to attack its eye. Saying it was one thing, but actually doing the deed was another. The Cyclops towered above them. Fighting it at close range was very risky as well because it specialized in close combat. If not for their fast mobility, and William playing the supporting role, all of them would have already died by now. The ground trembled as the Cyclops used its hammer to smash Isaac and Ian, who were distracting it with their long-range magic attacks. Isaac's earth's magic and Ian's water magic worked hand in hand to fire projectiles at the Cyclops' eye. These attacks didn't deal any damage to the eye itself, but it annoyed the giant to the point that it was focusing its attacks on them. Ian jumped in the air and William's black whip pulled him out of the Cyclops' attack range. They were using hit-and-run tactics against the Cyclops because it was very dangerous to fight it head-on. Gained express points. 10,000. William looked at the notification with a grim expression. He was buying enough time for Ella and his herd to kill the Gasmirages so that they could help them deal with the Cyclops. 2 more small fries remain, William thought as he glanced at the pitiful Gasmirages who were currently being ganged up on by Ella and the goats. At most it will be over in 2 minutes. 2 minutes might seem like a short time, but when fighting against a millennial beast, every second counted. William also knew that even if Ella and the rest of the goats were to complete their mission, the help they could offer against the Cyclops was very limited. Aside from Ella, the other Angorian goats would not be able to do anything. William was not foolish enough to order them to engage against a millennial beast. That would be just like throwing eggs on a boulder. He had already fired over a dozen void arrow at the Cyclops, but it remained indifferent to his dark magic. It seemed that the Cyclops race was immune to any type of magic that disabled their eyesight. An angry roar reverberated in the plains as the Cyclops went on a rampage. It swung its hammer and hurled it towards William's and Est's location. Levitation, William said as he held Est's waist. He then flew up towards the sky to evade the incoming attack. Even though the attack missed, a powerful shockwave pushed the two children away as a dust cloud appeared on the area where the giant hammer fell. This is really hopeless, Est sighed as William and him landed on the ground. We won't be able to kill it. Of course we can't kill it, William said with irritation. But, we can beat it. Do not forget that the power of the sword is dependent on your belief. If your belief wavers, then its power will also be affected. I know, Est said through gritted teeth. He knows, but what of it? No matter how much he tried to hold onto his belief, he felt that he was an ant facing off against an elephant. For him to be able to remain standing was already a feat in itself, but the more he fought against the Cyclops, the more he realized that this trial was impossible to clear. This trial is called the Trial of Courage, William reminded him. He could tell that Est was getting frustrated and it would do him no good if he lost heart at this critical moment. It means that this trial will measure our courage. Perhaps, killing the Cyclops is not the goal of this trial. Then what is the goal of this trial? It is just a hunch, but I think that the goal is to have the courage to face off against an opponent that is impossible to defeat. William had encountered similar scenarios like this in games. There were bosses and characters who were invincible, and you will have to fight them in order to continue the storyline. When the protagonist was about to be defeated, something would happen that would make the invincible boss run away or end the battle immediately. We just need to find out what the requirement is to trigger that event, William thought as he racked his brains for any clues to tip the scales in their favor. The courage to face off against an opponent that you can't defeat, Est muttered. Perhaps you're right. Maybe we just need to keep on fighting and show our bravery. Yes, William replied. Gavin gave me this trial, so there must be a way to clear it. He couldn't possibly have given me a trial that was impossible to clear in the first place, right? Gavin, is there really a way for William to beat that Cyclops? Issei asked as he looked at the projection in front of him. Isn't this trial too hard? Exactly. Are you trying to bully William? Lily scoffed. He still hasn't used my divinity and you're already planning to get him killed. Are you out of your mind? Gavin cleared his throat as he looked at the struggling red-head boy in the projection. Actually, this was not the trial I intended for William. Astrid came to look for me earlier and asked if my follower could help her own devout believer clear a trial she prepared for him. So this is all that tomboy's doing. Lily pursed her lips. Since it's her believer's problem, why must she drag others into it? Because this is the only way for my believer to complete this mission. A beautiful lady wearing knight's armor appeared out of thin air. Her long black hair was tied in a ponytail and her eyes, that held unwavering determination, stared at the projection. She could tell that Est was on the verge of giving up. Only the words of the red-headed boy beside him was preventing him from losing all hope. My believer is still too young and inexperienced, Astrid said in a clear and crisp tone. It just so happened that I sensed someone with very strong divinity in his surroundings. After an in-depth investigation, I found out that he was one of Gavin's followers. Astrid paused and gave Lily and Issei a sidelong glance. I didn't expect to find out that the boy carried not only one, but 3 divinities in his body. This is the first time I've seen something like this. I'm very curious, why did the 2 of you favor another god's follower? I wonder what will happen when the other gods learn about this secret. That's none of your business. Lily angrily placed her hands on her waist. You think you can blackmail us? We're not breaking any rules. Are you threatening us? Issei narrowed his eyes. I doubt that a righteous knight like you likes to gossip, but if you ever do, I'll make sure that all of your believers will become part of my followers' harem. I'm not afraid of you, nor any of the gods. Mess with my brother and I'll make sure that all of your believers would become my men's *x slaves. Astrid raised an eyebrow, but she didn't argue with Issei. Among the new generation gods, the harem god was someone who held absolute power. All of his believers were very influential people in the worlds they resided in. From the lowest commoners to the highest kings and emperors. His power couldn't be challenged and all the gods were wary of him. No one would want their devout followers to become mindless slaves who would wantonly fall into depravity. Be at peace, Astrid replied in a firm voice. I have no intention of telling this to anyone. Lily snorted and was about to nag the uptight tomboy when she saw Gavin shaking his head. She had no choice but to bottle up her retort inside her chest and return her attention to the ongoing battle at the plains. Well, so how will they be able to clear this mission? David asked as he played with his beard. Is this really just a trial of courage? How come I don't see any chances of winning? This trial wasn't supposed to be cleared in the first place, Astrid admitted. Huh, what did you say? Lily glared at the goddess of nights. Frankly, I don't want to honor the promise I made to the Helen Kingdom. Astrid looked at her devout follower with a gentle gaze. It's just that Est had made an oath to offer her everything to me in exchange for a chance. When I told her that I would give her a chance if she lived her life as a man forever, she didn't even bat an eye and said yes. I thought that she was just joking, but when I really turned her, and the two girls serving under her into boys, it was then that I realized that she was serious. Since that was the case, then I should at least give her a winning chance. But you said that this trial couldn't be cleared in the first place, Issei interjected. Doesn't this mean that you lied to your believer? It is true that Est wouldn't be able to clear the trial if she was alone, Astrid answered. That is why I asked Gavin for help. Astrid focused her attention on William, who was currently holding Est in the air. A flicker of expectation could be seen in her eyes. Perhaps, someone who was favored by 3 gods. 4. David cut in. Not 3 but 4. The corner of Astrid's lips twitched as she looked at the shepherd god who was peacefully drinking his tea at the side. You're in on this, too, David. Why not? David answered. William is a very interesting boy. He reminds me of when I was just born in this world. Since he is as handsome as me, he will definitely be able to find a way. Ah, that reminds me, there is a famous saying on his home planet that goes something along the lines of, if there's a will there's a way. Astrid, if Will can really complete this mission, you are going to owe him a favor. The 4 gods looked at David in disdain. As handsome as you, have you seen your reflection in the mirror? Pichawi, I'll consider it, Astrid replied as she tried her best to keep the calm expression on her face. But first, he must show me what he can do. I really want to see if a boy that is favored by 4 gods can do the impossible. Gavin, Issei, Lily, and David looked at the struggling William in the projection. Although they favored him, they still couldn't think of a way for the boy to overcome the obstacle he was currently facing. Chapter 75. Bestow your power upon my unworthy hands. Listen, I can't stay in this form forever, William explained as he used his dark magic to pull Est, Isaac, and Ian along with him as he evaded the attacks of the Cyclops. Since they were fighting on a plane, it gave him plenty of space to dodge its attacks. Although the Cyclops attacks were powerful, as long as they didn't hit, then they would be safe. I'm using a forbidden spell that allows me to become strong for a short period of time, William said with a serious expression. Once this magic runs out, I will not be able to use magic for 5 years. What? Est asked in surprise. You will not be able to use magic for 5 years. Yes, William replied. Not being able to use magic for 5 years is still better than dying here. Don't you agree? But still. Don't worry. I didn't do this only for you. This is part of my trial as well, so we are in the same boat. Isaac looked at William with admiration. Ian, on the other hand, had a rare look of pity on his face. Although both of them had different expressions, they still understood the weight of William's sacrifice. They never expected that the redhead boy would go this far in order to help their young master clear the trial of courage. We can't afford to fail this trial, William stated. Since I decided to go all out, none of you are allowed to pull my leg. I have a plan, but it is risky. Are you all willing to put your life on the line and trust me? Yes, Est replied with a determined look. He then gripped the sword in his hand tightly. If it will help us clear this mission, then I'm in. Isaac and Ian exchanged a glance at each other before firmly nodding their heads. This time, both of them would not question William's orders and give him their full cooperation. We only have one chance to do this, so let's make it count. William then started to explain the plan he had in mind. Est's and the twins' expressions became very serious as they listened to his instructions. Any of you can still choose to back down, William sighed. However, after the time limit of my magic ends, we will just be waiting for our deaths. Since we don't have a choice, then let's just do it, Ian said as he looked at the Cyclops in the distance. I agree. Isaac voiced out his opinion. Est nodded his head in agreement. Very well. Since all of you agreed, then we are all in this together, William said with a smile. Hold him off for 2 minutes. I need to make my preparations. Okay. William landed on the ground, but he kept the dark whips tied on the children's waists. That way, he could pull them away from danger if they were unable to evade the Cyclops' attacks. Gained express points. 10,000. Good job, Mama Ella, William thought. Just one more. Est, Ian, and Isaac charged toward the Cyclops from different directions. The twins were using their ranged magic attacks to get its attention. William made a few hand seals as he prepared the spell that would aid them toward their victory. A black dagger appeared in front of him and stabbed the tip of his finger, allowing blood to spray from his fingertip. As the blood was absorbed by the ground, a red magic circle appeared under William's feet. As soon as the magic circle had fully formed, William immediately began his chant. Darkness that is darker than black. Blood that burns with the life of the living. I pledge myself to overcome the obstacles that lay before my eyes. Bestow your power upon my unworthy hands. And let the fools who stand on my way be destroyed by your unending might. Clones of darkness. William, Est, Isaac, and Ian suddenly multiplied as William's spell took effect. The clones of darkness was able to create a dozen clones for each of William's targets. These clones were not ordinary clones because they were able to manifest 50% of their original's power. It was not only the children that had gained this wondrous effect, but Ella and the other goats as well. Because of this, the hundreds of goats easily overpowered the last Gazmirage and sent it to the afterlife. Gained express points. 10,000. Me. The goats made a full-powered charge towards the Cyclops. Of course, the original goats aside from Ella were ordered by William not to join the battle. Even though they were unwilling, they still followed their shepherd's orders and remained a safe distance away from the Cyclops. As the clones converged on their target, an all-out battle royale began with the Cyclops at the center. Est's clones wielded their swords and started to inflict wounds on the Cyclops' ankles and legs. Due to William's current circumstance, Est finally threw caution to the wind and resolved himself to beat the Cyclops. This sudden change in his attitude made the power of his sword slowly increase with each passing second. William's clones darted across the battlefield and used the dark whips in order to help his allies evade and attack the blind spots of the towering giant. The Cyclops became annoyed and wildly swung its hammer left and right. It even fired beams of light from its eye in the hope that it would be able to destroy the insects that were currently ganging up on him. Unfortunately, William's clones had dedicated themselves to the supporting role. All of his clones were flying in the air and took control of the situation. The original William, who was on the ground, raised his bloody finger and aimed it at the Cyclops, eye like a gun. Lirawasniel Arian Terrarielriath, Mariath, Telendon, Teleraniel. Ararosnal Treeline Brades, Moraniel, Aerorilbras, Elowin, Threasrilriel Rinalol, Treloran, Morlilin. Neelan Bernal Aranas, Merlinian. An eerie red glow appeared on the tip of William's finger as he took aim. This spell only had a 1% chance of instantly killing a millennial beast, and Celine had used it on the golden-scaled crocodile back in Lant. William decided to take a gamble and use this spell to end the life of the millennial beast in front of him. Finger of Death. William roared as a red lightning bolt shot out from his finger. The Cyclops felt the deadly threat of William's attack and immediately countered it with its own beam of light. The red beam and the red lightning bolt clashed against each other, which caused everyone's heart to tremble. William's feet skidded across the ground as he faced the Cyclops' counterattack head-on. Blood seeped from the corner of his lips, but he didn't relent his attack. He was pouring every strand of his magic power in this offensive spell because this was their only chance to beat the Terror Hand. A powerful explosion sent shockwaves in the air as the two attacks cancelled each other out. William fell powerlessly on the ground as the last vestige of magic power left his body. Est. One of William's clones shouted as it held the wooden staff in his hand like a baseball bat. Est didn't hesitate and leapt into the air. He landed on the wooden staff as he prepared his body to strike. Go! William's clone shouted as he swung the wooden staff. Magnum burst. Est flew in the air like a cannonball. The Cyclops' reaction was a bit slow because it had also exhausted itself in countering William's full-powered death blow. The young boy fearlessly pulled back the sword in his hand as he prepared for his strongest move. Light that shines upon the world, bathe us all in your eternal glory. Est shouted. He then stabbed the sword forward with all of his might. Grand Cross. A radiant light enveloped the holy sword as it pierced the center of the Cyclops' eye. The Cyclops didn't even get a chance to let out a scream as a cross made of holy light split its body into two halves. A black whip of darkness wrapped around Est's waist and pulled him away to safety. Not long after, the hulking giant fell on the ground with a resounding crash. Everyone in the battlefield looked at the giant's remains as William's clone gently landed on the ground, carrying Est in a princess carry. "Good job," the clone said as he helped the handsome boy stand on his feet. "Did we win?" Est asked. He was still half in doubt if they had really won against a millennial beast. "Yes," William's clone replied with a smile before vanishing into particles of light. For some reason, Est felt his heart skip a beat when he saw the smile of approval on the clone's face. A feeling that he had never felt before started to bloom inside his innocent heart. Surprisingly, he didn't dislike this feeling.